Hey, Patrick Manley here, former Chicago Bears long snapper. You were listening to Brags in the Stands.
In 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, this is Sylvie from Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000, and I'm busy right now. What am I busy with? I am listening and watching the Trey Toon Show. I gave him a t-shirt. It was a large. He doesn't fit in it, but we love him because he's the absolute best. So sit back and enjoy the Trey Toon Show.
With how well they collaborate.
They point to the ability to overcome adversity, the need to adapt to challenges, the need to have a collaborative working environment.
And you're going to hear this word a lot today because it's true, is collaboration. The collaboration that Matt and I have.
What we've done in the past couple of years together, there's conviction and there's collaboration to dig in and reflect and say why.
When you can collaborate.
I think it's the way they collaborate. We think that their collaboration will result in the right decisions. The leadership, the collaboration, the adaptability, again, the collaboration.
It's the collaborative relationship that Matt and I have.
So when you look at the whole product and the collaboration,
it's a collaborative effort.
Again, I've told you about the collaboration and nothing's changed there. So it's been a great collaboration.
I know we keep on using the word collaborative.
Time is a flat circle. Matt and Ryan are our football guys. Let's go.
The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Waddle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000. Don't miss it.
I know what you mean. It's like their own Philly. Okay.
Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
are ridiculous.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The Cincinnati Bengals are on their way to the Super Bowl. And as you saw in that video there, the Bears beat the Bengals much earlier this year. And Joe Burrow, 3 interceptions, 4 interceptions. I lost track in that game. But, by transitive property, that means the Bears could eventually be Super Bowl champions. That's what that means here for the end of this season. But we are here today for the introduction press conferences for our new GM and head coach, GM Ryan Poles, and head coach Matt Eberflus. I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr., and as always, I'm bringing on my guy alongside me. Trey Tunes is in the house. How are we doing today, Trey?
Tay.
Trey's got some stories to share as far as why, once again, he's up late in the night. He's always working, karaokeing late in the night, and then he finally gets a night off, and then, of course, he doesn't get a night off. Nothing surprises me in the world of Trey Tunes.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll tell the story later. Gotta get my voice ready for it.
Getting the voice ready. We're getting ready. Me and Trey, we haven't been able to go live together here in a little bit, in a short minute. So it's good, Trey, to be able to hop back on with you.
I missed you, Greg.
I missed you.
Right. We were singing karaoke last time we went live.
That was one of my favorite shows I think we've ever done. That was really fun and heartwarming.
Right.
And so we're doing our thing. People are starting to jump into the chat.
Look at DiMusio's comment.
Demisio, good morning, Trey. Sorry about last night. LOL. That sounds kind of,
I know,
take
right?
more from that statement.
We need context.
What happened last night? Oh, man.
Yeah, so it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I looked down at my phone, and of course, Big Dollar Dave was calling me, and I'm like, "What is going on?" So I just pick it up, just to, like, why the hell not, right? And so they're just. I wish I would have recorded what they were talking. It was so funny, but it's like one of those you had to be there kind of moments.
So were you completely asleep when this went down?
Oh no, I was getting there though. I was, sometimes you got to wind down and stuff. And I didn't wind up going to sleep for like another 3 or 4 hours, but they were just talking. I'm like, and they were on the phone for like 2 hours before they called me. And I'm like,
and was it one of those things where they just bring you into the conversation and then you're just listening while they're talking?
Pretty much. and they're like, and Dave was like, so, they're going back and forth. Tell them, Trey. And I'm like, tell them what? It was absolutely hilarious.
Of course, Demusio and Big Dollar Dave, screwing up with my co-host here. Making him tired. He's always tired. Just let him get some damn sleep. Ghost Rider is in the house. Double R is in the house. My guy Tino Martinez is in the house as well. Everybody's welcome. Demisio, pound sand, Braggs. We will do. But a lot of people starting to hop in. We got David, De La Paz in the chat. So we're doing a lot of different things here, getting ready for this introductory press conference as I, of course, mess with my internet, which is always an issue. But you know, I just do, and then we also got your, we got some family
hey,
in
Auntie.
the chat.
Hey.
Auntie Karen is in the house.
Yeah, big Steelers fan she is.
Big Steelers fan. They snuck away with a win when they played the Bears earlier this year.
Right.
So we'll see how
we
it goes.
almost beat all the playoff teams.
And yes, VF, my intro is definitely as long as the tape never lies. Now, where you learn from the best, and I wanted to make sure my intro is nice and long to set the tone, and then also to, once you get your intro going, then you can share it. There's like 70 Facebook Bears groups I'm a part of, so I want to get the show shared along to all those before we get going so everybody can enjoy it live, or if you want to watch it later, that's fine too. But we appreciate it. And of course, I learned from my guys, Phil and Shane. Got to make sure my intro is nice and long, give everybody the full palette of what you're going to expect here at Brags in the Stands. You saw the highlight.
That's what she said.
Roquan Smith, pick 6 in Joe Burrow, who's now in the Super Bowl. So maybe we aren't that far off.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance. Hey, I said it last night on Twitter, the Bengals give me hope for the Bears. I mean, this is a team that picked 3rd in the NFL draft just this last spring. A couple years ago was one of the worst teams, the worst team in the NFL, picked number 1 to get Joe Burrow 2 years ago. So, for all the quick turnaround hopefuls, there you go. The Cincinnati Bengals are in the Super Bowl, having a chance to win their first Super Bowl championship in a very long time. So if the Bengals can do it, anybody can do it.
And when they picked Jamar Chase, I'm like, I said, I get it, but why? I said, their offensive line is horrible. I said, shouldn't they be? And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, hey, a lot of people were saying Penei Sewell that ended up going to the Lions, but to pair Jamar Chase with his old buddy from college at LSU, Joe Burrow, those two won a national title together. It's paying dividends, and you saw that yesterday. Jamar Chase with the end zone touchdown, the one-on-one throw, back shoulder, jump ball, and he's not even that big of a guy to throw a jump ball. It's just all about timing and chemistry.
Exactly. And chemistry is that good?
Right. They have that chemistry, and we got to find those guys for the Chicago Bears. Hey, there's a couple Ohio State wide receivers that could be available in the second round.
Right.
Maybe you just kind of follow their thing and try to go from that recipe, or as I was talking about yesterday, shared a picture of me with David Bell, hanging out around Mackey Arena. That's a guy that could be on the table. So they certainly need the weapons. Is Joe Burrow the greatest quarterback in the NFL? No. I mean, they won a lot in large part because of how their defense played yesterday. So it showed that you can win. You don't need Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen necessarily to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, Matt Stafford's a good quarterback, but he almost threw a pick to end the game yesterday, and the Niners just dropped it right in their breadbasket. So it's not the end all. Jimmy Garoppolo is fucking terrible, and they almost made it to the Super Bowl. So it's not the end all be all. And Justin Fields is actually, in all hopes that he could be a dynamic quarterback. So, you put a right team around him, the right coaching staff around him, and hey, maybe you can be the next team that's getting their ticket punched for the Super Bowl. But Trey, I want to bring in my next guy because we have the introduction press conferences here coming up in just about 15 minutes. And my guy Jordan Silvera has done an excellent job helping me out with some of these off-season shows, from the firing press conferences to the breaking news of GM and head coach hirings. We went live for those right away. And Jordan is going to join us once again. He did a fantastic job, and he's going to help us along. Trey, he's the serious one, Trey. We're always fucking around here.
Right.
Jordan's serious.
He comes in all business.
Yeah, he's all business, and we're all fucking around here. But we need him because he knows what he's talking about. He does a lot of good research, when it comes to the different candidates when we weren't sure who they were going to get. And now I'm sure that we've found out who the GM and head coach are. Jordan has been diving deep into the research department, into finding out what these guys are all about. So Jordan, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you coming on. And, maybe, if you want, give us your first thoughts of the day.
Sure. Thanks, Greg and Trey. Nice to hang out with you, brother.
See what I mean? He's already so serious.
I'm excited.
No, that's okay. See, me and Trey fuck around, Jordan. So
that's okay.
Me and you, we've been doing it, and it's been more, hard lined. But now when Trey gets in here and some of the crazy chat guys, if Will comes in here, you're in a lot of trouble. But you're gonna bring the serious tone. You're the balance that we need here today. Right. So sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
No. It's, I'm excited that it's a day to celebrate with the announcement of a new head coach and GM, and there's a lot of stuff to get into. I'm hoping that we get more of. I watched Brian Dable, New York Giants head coach, press conference this morning. I'm hoping we get a little bit more of that than, let's say, a Nick Sirianni from last year. But I'm excited to hear Eberflus come out with his plans. I think you're going to hear some questions about, hey, is Roquan Smith going to be your Mike or your Will backer? How do you feel about Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn lining up with their hand in the dirt in the 4-3? Are you going to incorporate any of the 3-4 to try and help transition some of these guys over? Personally, I think you're going to see Eberflus say that he's sticking with the Tampa 2 cover 2 look 4-3 front. And I think that I'm excited to hear Ryan Poles talk about some of the players on the roster. What does he think of a Tariq Cohen with, who's been out a year and a half with that ACL? What does he think about Justin Fields? That's going to be a topic of conversation. Is he going to talk about some of the prospects that he likes, what he's hoping to build first? I think we all assume that because he's a former offensive lineman, he's going to focus a lot on preparing those trenches to hold up and protect Justin and to get after the quarterback. So it'll be interesting. I'm happy to get into it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, we appreciate you having on. Now, Trey, I muted your mic for a quick second because we're having a little bit of, you're getting that static-y sound with your, you know what I'm talking about? There it goes. It's gone now because you unplugged your thing. Trey! No. Hey, we're working through the kinks before we get going live here. Now it's good, Trey, I think. Yeah. Now it's good.
Y'all good? Good?
What? Yeah, it's good now.
All right.
And what the hell is on your screen with this, with the at the top left? What is that? Yeah.
Oh, wait, that.
Other hand, yeah, that one.
Like when people subscribe to the channel, it pops up. I can get rid of it. I think.
No, you can leave it up. I just didn't know what it was. It looked like something like you're playing like Mortal Kombat, but with Ghost Rider.
Round 1 fight.
Fatality.
Right.
Babyality. I did not cut anyone off. All right. Jordan's been on with just me here lately, and I knew today's show would be a little different.
He's used to it then.
I'll tell you what, I'll be quiet for the whole presser. I think I won't cut off our new GM or head coach. We have new staff, bunch of zero experience big talkers. Hey, I understand the concern. Rich kid, they're very similar to the Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace hires, where these guys didn't really have any experience and had a lot to prove, but hey, I'm at the point where I'm willing to give them a shot and be positive about this. I know Jordan knows where I was at with Jim Harbaugh, and to hear some different comments come out about him potentially taking a head coaching job in the NFL definitely frustrates me. That's not good. That doesn't mean I'm going to turn on Matt Eberflus. It does make me question somewhat, like if he was a candidate, why wouldn't you at least interview him? And I think that's a fair question to ask. I know everybody wants to just get their Bears pom-poms out and everybody just be positive and, put their fingers in the ears of anything negative, like, if you're not a real fan, if you're not completely all in on all this. But I can understand the other end of the spectrum where people are questioning a lot of what the Bears are doing. Since George McCaskey's been the owner, this has been a failed organization. And even before he was owner, we didn't have much success either. So, I don't blame people for questioning everything that's going on. But at the same time, this is the cards were dealt, and we are Chicago Bears fans. So, we're just going to have to hope and pray that this is the one that works out. We're not, I'm not an expert. Did I think Jim Harbaugh would have been perfect for the job? Yeah. But
I already wanted the Gruden deal.
Right. And that is a big, caveat in that whole discussion, because we saw with the Raiders giving John Gruden a 10-year deal. Granted, he got let go for, extraneous reasons. 10 years is a long time to commit, especially for the kind of money per year he would get. But it's not my money, so I don't give a shit. I'm just looking at fit, and I thought Jim Harbaugh would have been the perfect fit with Justin Fields and his, history with the Chicago Bears. But I also don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So, maybe this is right. We all thought Matt Nagy was the right hire, or at least we're positive about the Matt Nagy hire when he was brought here. Most people, I didn't see too many people pushing against it, and we were all wrong. So, hopefully, this is the other way around.
Yeah, speaking of when you look at that game yesterday, and you kind of see some of the things that were wrong with Matt in the first place, where they just will not run the ball. I mean, in the second half, you're averaging 6 yards a carry, and you just refuse. They're dropping 8, and it's like, I'm looking at them like, why won't they just run? They have the lead. Why are they still trying to throw the ball? I don't know. You kind of see, when you will just scratch your head. I guess the kind of the talent masks some of the mistakes they make in play calling and strategy at times.
In regards to the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, their fatal blow was at the end of the first half, getting too cute and trying to get a touchdown instead of just taking the 3 points to go into the half and extend the lead. And Tyreek Hill gets tackled outside the end zone, and they don't get any points. They didn't have a timeout, so they couldn't stop the clock. And a lot of people were defining that as too cute, and we've heard that all too many times here in the city of Chicago with Matt Nagy. So, it was interesting. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, they mask a lot of the issues that the Bears had. They don't have those issues there because those guys are such dynamic talents. But they this year they had some moments, especially in the middle of the season, where they struggled, and Patrick Mahomes looked very human, as opposed to the football god that he looks like every week on Sundays. It was getting to a point where it was Cutler-esque how bad he was doing, and you were seeing a lot of teams, just dropping everyone into coverage and making Patrick Mahomes beat them with the small ball as opposed to trying to hit the home run every time. And Patrick had a tough time, initially adjusting to that. And I thought by the end of the year, they'd kind of found their groove again. But the Bengals apparently were their kryptonite, because 2 games in a row, they lit it up in the first half on the Bengals. And then in the second half, they had no answers, not scoring any offensive touchdowns in both second halves they played against the Bengals. So that was certainly interesting. And like I said to start the show, the Bears beat the Bengals, which in so facto means the Bears are in the Super Bowl. That's what that means. So
pretty much,
hey, it's exciting. It's exciting. And this is what we got. So Trey, we're about 3 to 5 minutes away from this press conference getting started. And you're the tech guy here.
You did it last time.
I have not. Well, I don't want to do it the way I did it last time, because the other way we do it is I share my screen, and then audio wise, because I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing. I would just pull it up on my phone and then hold the phone to the mic just to get the
Oh, really?
audio. That's how I did it I did it with Jordan too. And it's not easy. All right. So I would really prefer to not have to do that this time.
No, that's how you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a moron, but I get the job done.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, you two talk amongst yourselves, and I will get this up and going.
Greg is a modern day MacGyver. Finds a way to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting things done. I don't know a lot, but the few things I know, I get it done with that. So that's good enough for me. That's right. Zach Taylor in the Super Bowl. I think he was a protege of Sean McVay's,
yes,
correct? So, we're having 2 guys that have a lot of familiarity with each other going up against each other. So that's certainly interesting.
I'm sorry, that just sounded funny.
What'd you say? What'd I say? I don't even know what
two guys that's real familiar with each other going up against each other.
Yeah, real familiar. I wanted to get real familiar with Will. He lost his bet to me, and I want to spoon with him because that was the bet we made, Jordan. That sounds a little crazy to you, I'm sure.
Yes.
I want to spoon with it. No, me and Will, our guy Will, who's a loyal listener to Trey Tunes, of course, and he's been here a lot, of loyal listener to what I do here at Brags in the Stands. As you can see there, he is very intense. That's putting it mildly. And we made a bet to start the year as far as what the Bears win total would be, and he was very down on the Bears. And we were all trying to be optimistic, as we're starting to be now, as the offseason always turns and Bears fans always find a way to be optimistic. And he was pounding the table that they'd only win 5 games. And I told him it would be more. And the bet was, if I was wrong, I had to do something, which I ended up not being wrong. So that's a moot point. And if he was wrong, because the big joke is, there's a guy in our chat. His name's Bearlissimo. His name's George Bayless. You two would get along splendidly. He's one of the smartest football minds I've ever met. He does a great job of breaking down film. He has his own YouTube channel. He's on Twitter. I'm sure you've crossed paths with some of his work on there.
Yes,
he invited me to London for Bears Raiders. And
wow.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I was honored. I only went for a few days because that's all I could afford, was to fly out and go see the game and fly back home. But I hung out with George and his son, and he got a hotel room, in this place that was it looked like we were staying at like the bar in Star Wars, where all the roughest characters were staying. But it was sweet though, because I got like the full taste of London going there. But the rooms were kind of, small, tight. And I was going to sleep on the ground. I didn't want to overwork my welcome. He brought me all the way across. He's got a ticket to the game. And we got wasted at this bar called the famous Three Kings Pub. And after the game, after the night, we went back and I'm sleeping on the floor. And he was like, "Oh, mate, you ain't got to sleep on the floor. Come on." And I ended up sleeping with Bearlissimo. I was hammered. And there's a video of it on YouTube because we thought it was really funny to go live at the moment. And so now everyone makes fun of me for spooning with Bearlissimo. So I made Will, long story short, I made Will bet with me that if he lost, he would have to take a picture of spooning with me. And he lost the bet. And so now Will is going to not only get his participation trophy, but he's going to have to spoon with me. But he's mad at me right now. We're in a rough patch in our relationship. So I'm hoping he can come into the show today. I know he's doing. Bearlissimo's in the chat. I was going to sleep on the floor. It wasn't like I demanded to spoon with you.
You're like, "Oh, I guess I'll sleep on this hard, cold floor. If only I had somebody to spoon with." Right?
And Trey, you're a big dude. George Bayless, a.k.a. Bearlissimo, is a big boy. Like, he played football, and he's a big dude, like offensive lineman, whatever he plays. He's a big dude. And so, yes, I was absolutely the little spoon in this relationship. The video is a classic, though. I encourage you to go on Bearlissimo's channel and see the video of me and Bearlissimo spooning. It's not as bad as you think. It was a lot of fun. But George is absolutely the man, and we appreciate him coming into the chat here today. So what do you got, Trey, as we're getting closer to that was about as much babbling as I could do. What do you got, Trey, as far as maybe pulling up the shared screen? Maybe we can
share screen.
and
I'm doing the Twitter, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind. And then we can get this baby rolling, because I'm sure they're going to be going live here soon with the new GM and head coach. I'm going, me, like Jordan's going to be analyzing what they're saying. I'm going to analyze what suits they're wearing, what pens they're holding. Like, if George really wants to, clap back at me for all my criticisms, he will show up in a full out tuxedo cummerbund, whatever. But because I was so critical, Trey, of George when he was picking up Ryan Poles at the airport, looking like the guys in South Lot, all the old drunks in South Lot. He's got his jacket, he's got the Bears mask, he's got the Bears shoes with the Bears shoelaces. He's got the whole on time. It's midnight.
Well, he's a big fan.
He's a big fan who also
and not a talent evaluator.
Yeah, he's a big fan who holds the keys to all our hopes and dreams, here for the Chicago Bears. So there we go. We got the shared screen, and hopefully we're able to pull this up nice and easy. And so I'm assuming it hasn't gone live yet. They said that it would be at 11 a.m.
He's pulling the Matt Nagy on us.
Yep, always late, always making them wait. I guess they keep us on our toes.
Just did a refresh.
So, yep, we're getting ready to get going here.
Oh, there we go.
All right, we are ready to go. Here is George McCaskey and Ryan Poles. Yeah, go ahead. He's already talking.
I also want to thank the McCaskey family.
Y'all hear?
Is that as loud as it can be?
Hiring process, which includes George McCaskey, Ted Phillips, Tanisha Wade, Sue Campbell, and Bill Polian.
Can everyone hear it okay? In the chat, Jordan, can you hear it okay?
From the time
it's a little quiet, but I'm good.
I quickly realized you were a special man. Dedicated,
You're good.
Passionate, and hungry to get this right. I still can't get over the fact that you met me at baggage claim and gave me a ride to the facility to get to know me at a deeper level. As you know now, I value people and relationships. And that told me everything I needed to know about you and this franchise. I didn't get here on my own. I have an amazing support structure around me. And that starts with my wife and kids who are here today. Thank you for having my back and pushing me to always want to achieve something higher. I want to be clear though, although I will pour myself into this organization, I will always be there.
Getting emotional.
Present. And continue to be a great husband and father. I got to recognize my parents for consistently preaching hard work and respect and an emphasis of perseverance, leaning on the phrase, you got to go through something to be something. If it wasn't for those cornerstone characteristics, I wouldn't be here today. There's a lot of people that have been a part of my journey and the reason why I'm here. And I can't name them all, and I apologize for that, but I got to mention a few. Clark Hunt and the entire Chiefs organization, Brett Veach.
Wow, he's so happy to be a Bear. Can't even get it out.
Grease making fun of him. He's crying. You know how much money this man's making now? Come on, I'd be crying too.
John Dorsey, Chris Ballard, Scott Pioli, Ted Cruz.
He's passionate.
Coaches and teammates at Boston College, and the entire crew at Canandaigua Academy. I also want to mention a few of those that have reached out to me during the interview process, as well as open the door for future advice. Tony Dungy, Bill Polian, Rod Graves, Kenta Gunter, Lauren Bullock, and Greg Brown. The Bears and Chicago have long been a part of me, starting in 2008 when I was an undrafted free agent here. And it's amazing to see this building and what has been done. Funny stories, I remember being back in Bourbonnais in the dorm, being woken up in the middle of the night with the tornado sirens going off, and the tornado had hit the ground not too far away. They shuttled us down to the basement in the middle of the night, and everyone, was groggy. But there was a moment I picked up my head. In the basement of this dorm was a laundry room, and I saw Bears legends Brian Urlacher.
Looks younger now.
Peanut Tillman, Devin Hester, and Olin Kreutz as we waited out the storm. Then fast forward.
Being with the Bears
I'm proud of
ages
this.
you.
When I rolled out the red carpet, I rented a sailboat, and I took my future wife out past the Navy Pier, where I took a knee and proposed to her. It just so happened fireworks went off right about that time, and yes, I took credit for it. It was all part of the plan. What am I about, and what's my philosophy? We're going to build through the draft. We're going to acquire young, fast, and physical football players. We're going to be selective in free agency, and we're going to connect evaluation with valuation. We're going to have a relentless approach to fix our weakness. We're going to maintain great self-awareness of who we are. We're going to solve problems with open communication and candor. And we're going to consistently put players in position to succeed. And the last thing, the most important piece, is we're going to take the North and never give it back.
Fuck yeah.
This head coach search started way
Nobody
before
owns us.
2022.
All right.
The moment I knew I wanted to be a general manager, I began looking for specific traits that define a successful head coach. And the results were leadership, poise, emotional intelligence, a developmental mindset, discipline, detail, toughness, and energy. Those traits are results of many conversations with Hall of Famers, Super Bowl champions, CEOs, players, and leaders of life. I was also looking for a brother to create an elite partnership with. When Matt walked in the door and interviewed, even without knowing, he just started checking off all the boxes. He described a detailed plan that had depth. He talked about building relationships with players and setting a new standard. And most importantly, he wanted to do all of that with the Chicago Bears. It's a privilege to introduce my new brother and 17th head coach of the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus.
Matt Eberflus heading to the podium. It's the 17th head coach of the Chicago.
Get it working in here, right?
Sit down, Matt.
Okay, this is a special
Our
moment,
football
for
guys.
Ryan and I and our families. And first of all, I'd like to recognize God for his wisdom and discernment, not only in this moment, in the process of this, but really through my entire career. I want to recognize that for sure. Thank you to George. I appreciate you, George. The McCaskey family. Ryan, you're awesome, man. I appreciate you. For being the head football coach and selecting me, to be the head football coach of the Bears. The search team was great. I've been through several interviews, over the last couple of years, and this team was top notch in organization, how they did it from A to Z. So I want to recognize, George and Bill, Ted, Tanisha, and Soup. Excellent job with the search team there. Special recognition to my wife, Kelly, 26 years coming up in February, which and my two daughters, Grace and Giada, for their love and support.
How old is he?
They're awesome.
51, I believe.
My parents, during my formative years, my father was an electrician, blue collar guy, and my mother was just a stay-at-home mom that worked with us. And man, talk about work ethic, the display of that, but doing it with love. So I really carried that on to my coaching career, the work ethic, and then also be able to surround it with love of your fellow man, a love of players, love of fellow staff members. And I think that's an important piece that I learned from that. I too want to thank the Indianapolis Colts, Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, the players at Indianapolis, the coaches that were there. I do appreciate their support and everything they've done. A special thanks for me for the coaches that were great examples for what makes a master coach. When I was coming up, I was fortunate to get a job at
How many
26
times
years
do you
old
think
at
he walked in on
University
Jim
of
Irsay doing a
for a guy named
huge
Gary
line
Cook.
of coke?
He was special all the way through my career.
Just the thought.
Getting into the Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame.
Maybe never. I'm just asking the question.
Outstanding example that he had for me at a young age. And I was with him, I think, 17 or 18 years. So unbelievable. And I got a chance to also work with Rod Marinelli. I want to make sure that he honors the relationship between player and coach, and he showed me how to take that to another level. And
I mean, if he did, Jim Irsay's got
I got a
the
chance to play for a
primo
guy,
stuff.
my junior year, that showed me how to come into an organization and change the culture and change the mindset.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I was living it because I was a player. And I stayed in touch with him, and that's Nick Saban. I really would appreciate it.
Oh, Nick Saban name dropping.
And also to my high school football coach, Pat Gachardo, over in Toledo, Ohio. Unbelievable passion for the game, and I appreciate that. Next, I would like to really have a statement really to the Chicago Bears.
You all right over there, Trey? You dying?
Will play at a high
fucking dying, man.
high effort, attacking physical style built upon speed, quickness, and explosive athletic ability.
Like
We will
it.
carry ourselves with an attitude of energy, passion, and intensity. We will play with maximum effort on every play. And my next piece of advice for the
My
players
mic's
for
up like way really high.
And then people always
For the
ask me,
volume
how
of
do
this,
you
I have to
get
turn my mic up a little
football
higher.
team
So
play
you're
hard,
hearing every
play
breath.
fast, play physical, to know exactly what they're supposed to do? How do you do that? You know, that's always a question that I get asked, and it's a foundational piece. So what we want to do is build the foundation. Okay, in this first year, we want to build this foundation of what we're going to look like. Okay, of what Chicago fans, alumni, okay, can be proud of. And the foundational pieces.
All right, listen.
are
I've built foundations.
effort. We're going to
Okay.
be.
They're more like longer.
That's the number one.
It's not like.
And we're going to have measurable ways for standards of performance that are going to be detailed. Every single rep, every single practice, every single game. It's going to be an effort-based team. So that's the H part, okay, to our HITS principle, okay? The next thing is the I. The I is intensity. We will
The
play with
I's,
maximum
not the
intensity,
Y's.
Focus, okay, mental focus and intensity, but also physical focus and intensity. The toughness
Next
we're talking
is
about
T.
for the Chicago Bears.
She's
is
for
the
taking the
hitting,
ball away.
Physical style, offense, defense, kicking. So that's going to be the second foundational piece, and we'll measure those. We have ways to measure.
This is
and
HITS
very
program.
detailed with those. Next T is taking care of the ball and taking the ball away. It's all about the ball.
You called it.
All about
The next one is
That's the
S,
most important
smart
thing for
and
winning
situational
losing is
football.
taking the ball and protecting the football. That's the T. And then the last one is S, okay, is being smart, situational players. So smart is really being what?
Fucking
No
spoiler
penalties.
alert.
We're squared away with
Sorry, guys.
top five every year in
That's the
penalties.
Tony Romo of press conferences over here.
Being great in the red zone, third down, 2 minute, okay, backed up, and being smart situational players.
Well, if you need
Hustle,
good
intensity,
situational football,
taking care of the football,
mine's
taking the
call
ball,
Matt
and being
Nagy.
smart situational players. Those will be the foundational pieces that
Don't
we
call
can measure. And I'm excited about getting to work with the coaches. Okay, once we get our coaching staff in here and developing that with the coaches, okay, and also developing it with the players. And that's all I have right now. Let's open it up to questions.
Let's get into it. Why did you guys sign your contracts with pens from middle school?
Matt, this is for you. Adam Hogue from NBC Sports Chicago. Congratulations. You obviously have the defensive background. What is your offensive philosophy? What do you believe in, and how do you think that's going to mesh with what's here, specifically the quarterback that's here?
Yeah, so the philosophy of the team is really what I stated there in terms of the foundational pieces. So we want an attacking effort-based offense, okay, that has great mental focus and intensity, and we're going to measure every single one of those. Obviously, taking care of the ball is the most important thing, and then being smart in our situations, right? Being smart pre-snap, post-snap, and understanding the game of football. And it's our
I
job
think
to
it's
coach
their
them.
mics is why they're so
Yeah.
quiet.
No, it has to
Philosophy
be.
of offense, sure, I want to
Fucking George.
scoring points, right, protecting the football. You know, those are things that we're working through.
Right,
How
'cause
many
they're-
wa-
Yeah, their background noise, like in the, you hear it pretty loud. I do think it's their mics.
Yeah, because
At least they've got 6 waters each next to them.
Ryan, you've come from an organization.
When
that's
Hope
had
got
a
on the mic, you
successful
could hear him
run
just
throughout
fine,
most
so
of
it's
your
them.
time there. This
Right.
organization has not been able to sustain success for a long period of time. Out of the gates, what are some of the organizational flaws and
It
weaknesses?
doesn't help when your mic's down
you
here and
wanna
you're
fix
talking
as
here.
fast as possible?
Yeah, I think this covers
Get closer, Matt.
and one of the biggest things I've learned was getting everyone on the same page. When the coaching staff,
Hear Ryan
the
a little
personnel
better.
department are speaking the same language, the personnel staff is acquiring the players that fit our system, then we're going to be off to a good start. And I've been in this situation. It hasn't always been all great in championships. There's been a process to get to where that team is right now.
Paul Barkish, guys, from Pro Football Weekly and Shaw Media. Congratulations. Ryan, for you, the Bengals 2 years ago were the worst team in football. Now they're in the Super Bowl. Do you see this as a rebuilding situation or just a reloading situation? Do you think you can be competitive immediately?
Yeah, absolutely do I think we can be competitive. And the beautiful thing about football is what we just saw with the Bengals. Everyone, once the Super Bowl is played, goes back to 0-0 and has the ability to, improve their roster, make changes. We all know it's fluid on a yearly basis, so we're going to attack it. And our goal is always going to be in contention and win games.
Deion Miller from ABC7 here in Chicago. Ryan, my question
Deion
for
Miller,
you is,
friend of
what
Brags
is
in
your
the Stands.
familiarity with Justin? What are your evaluations of Justin Fields, and what do you feel he needs to take that next step and be that quarterback that the Bears need?
Yeah, I remember watching Justin a lot. I'm close with Ryan Day as well, the head coach of Ohio State. And like any player, support and development. Getting back to the details, doing the fundamentals, and taking the approach to get, reach that ceiling. And that's hard work, that's detail. And, I'm excited to see him grow.
Matt, Jason Leisure with the Sun-Times. As a longtime defensive coach, what are your thoughts about being accountable and in charge of the offense going forward?
Yeah, I'm excited about that, working with Luke and the rest of the offensive staff that we acquire to the principles of our football team. That's going to be a process that we go through. A lot of discussions of how we operate, how we measure things, how we measure.
Will you yell at Eddie Jackson?
Foundational pieces. So that's going to be a work in progress all the way through until the first time the guys get here in April. So we're excited about getting that done.
Hey, it's Mark Rohde from The Score. Welcome
Hey.
both. Matt, my question is for you. Justin Fields, do you look at him as a franchise quarterback, a guy that can be great?
No, I think he's the worst prospect I've ever seen.
That's why I got the
Right now
job.
We're looking at everybody through the same lens, meaning that we're going to go back and we're going to watch those guys with a fresh eye, and we're going to see where they are, okay, in terms of what they need to develop on. So I'm a big process guy, so I want to be able to help the player. So when you look at the player-coach relationship, it's got to be like this, okay? So one of the ways we help all players, from player A to player Z, we're going to develop a plan for those guys, Mark, okay, to get better. It's usually only 3 or 4 things. You sit down with them, hey, show them the tape. This is what you're going to get better at. They work on it on their own, okay, in the off season. Then when they come back to here with us in April, then we start working on the detailed plan. But we don't just say, okay, hey, that's good. We have a detailed plan in terms of how to work towards that all the way through. And then when you improve that skill, you move to the next one. You move to the next one. So it's a plan in place, and I'm looking forward to doing it with all the players.
Can I add on that real quick?
Yes, you can.
Talk about too is anytime you evaluate a player and put a plan in place, the big thing is finding out what they do well, and whatever they do well, maximizing that, and then find their weakness and do what Coach just said in terms of attacking the weakness to get better in those other areas. But I think
I'll
the key
tell you
thing
what,
is what do you do
Justin's
well, and
pretty
measure that a
good
lot,
at moving out
and
of the
then fix
pocket.
the holes and get
No
better
expert,
as we
Jordan.
Herb Howard, the Bigs Media. Congratulations to you both. Ryan, at what point in your process did you realize that you and the Bears were in lockstep about Coach Eberflus? And was there ever any point where you had a candidate in mind that you wanted to bring in after the 3 finalists were kind of predetermined?
That's a good question. So when we went through the process, it was a Zoom first, so I was able to give a list of candidates that I really liked, and Matt was on that. And when I got here in person, we brought him in, and the moment he walked in the room, I knew he was the guy, and especially when he started going through his plan. And the big thing to know is
love
I
at first
reach
sight.
out to a lot of people to make sure I'm lined up the right way. I reach out to people that have done it and been successful at it. And every single person said, when you know, you know. When you know you got one, you got one. And I'm a guy that when I have conviction about it, it's time to go. So that's kind of how everything fell into
That's
place.
how I felt about you, Jordan.
So I know you've been a
closer
defensive
I
coordinator,
get
so
to
saying an
you.
effort-based approach makes sense defensively because it's all about effort. But offensively, how does that apply? Because there's so much more that goes into it, the approach, balance, than just effort.
Yeah, sure. You know, a lot of times when you talk about offense, you talk about plays. You know, you always hear that, you know, this play was wrong, that play was wrong. To me, it's about concepts. You know, so we're going to install the concepts, you know, in the spring. We got to do a great job of building a base of our foundation. Okay, what our concepts look like. Run concepts, pass concepts.
Well, it's
play
bricklayer
action,
talk.
Screens, everything that goes along with running an offense. You know, I've been defending offenses for 30 years. Well, you know, it's going to be my input, okay, with Luke and the rest of the offensive staff about a dual education. Hey, what is the defensive guys looking at? Okay, in terms of, yeah, this is hard on us. This is not hard on us. And I'm excited about having those conversations. But to go back to the original point, that how do you measure that? How do you measure those, you know, foundational pieces? I'm going to get with the offensive staff and everybody to talk about, hey, what's a receiver look like blocking on the backside? What does a running back look like when he splits two? You know, how do you get hidden yards? Okay, how do you do that? Okay, and I'm excited about going, you know, all the way through it and making sure that we're squared away how we do measure that. And it takes time. I mean, it takes time. It takes a couple hours to read the tape after the game and looking at the details of that, of how we want to operate. And so what you'll see on tape, and you'll see from the global view of it, you'll see, man, these guys play. They play fast. They play physical. They play Chicago tough. And that's what you'll end up seeing.
Hi, Matt and Ryan. Alex Shapiro, NBC Sports Chicago. First of all, congratulations. Each of you drew serious interest from teams around the league for their vacancies. I'm wondering, what was it about the Bears situation that made you want to come to Chicago?
Yeah, it's the history of this place. You know, there was a standard, you know, of being a championship caliber team. And on top of that, like I said, my relationship with George in terms of I got a feel for what this place is all about. And that got me excited. And I feel like, you know, it has potential if we put the right players in and we coach hard, we're going to get back to where we belong.
I just can't get over how much water did they think they needed?
I'm wondering when Luke Getsy first kind of got on your radar, and what were some of the qualities that led you to bring him in as your offensive coordinator?
Yeah, so, you know, during the course of your time in the NFL, you know, 13, 14 years now in the league, you look at certain offenses, you know, you look at certain styles, you know, and you look at the tree of which certain people come from. And then you look and see how they operate. You know, I'm big into metrics and raising, you know, and measuring how people operate in terms of their efficiency. And they've certainly been that where he's been. And then you look at different things, then you start calling around and asking about the man. And that's where Luke is special. He's special that way. You know, he's tough, innovative, smart, okay, and works well with the team. He's a big team guy. So I'm excited about where he is, you know, and he's been on my radar for a while. You know, obviously we go through the process of looking at everybody and interviewing, you know, a lot of guys, you know, and talking to a lot of people about making this big decision. So we're excited about it.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Ryan. Mike Berman from NBC Chicago. Congrats on the jobs. For both of you, I'm hoping you can both weigh in on this. For both of you, it's the first time in this big chair. What do you think the biggest challenges will be because of that?
I think just getting up and running in terms of putting our plan, you know, it's really time, right? So you have free agency coming up, the Senior Bowl is going on. There's a lot of things that the other teams have already been preparing for because they had everything in place. So I think it's time. It's getting up and getting running and getting our process into place. And that's going to take some strategy of what we're going to change now and what we're going to change later in terms of how we think and how our meetings are going to go. So it definitely would be time.
Yeah, and for me, it's selection of the right people, putting the right people in place. Because, you know, in this business and every business, you have to be able to honor, okay, relationships and results, and putting the right people in place that can do those two things: relationships, building those, but also honor results. So this is a results business, right? So the selection process for me, as we're dealing with, you know, right now the immediate process of that is selecting coaches. So how can I do a great job of evaluating with Ryan, with George, and us together, coming up with the right plan of the people we bring in as coaches? That's the most immediate. These chairs are filling up. We got to do a great job. And I'm not in a big hurry. We're not in a big hurry because we want to make the right decision. So what do you look for in a coach? You look for a guy that wants to partner with players. He has to be able to do that. So that takes the right kind of heart, the right kind of mindset, okay, to be able to do that. Because you're really here to serve and be of service of the player. And how do you do that? Well, there's a couple ways you do that. Well, you have to model the right behavior. Okay, you have to do that. Because if you want your player to be calm, cool, collected, focused in the game, guess what? You, as the partner, the coach, have to be calm, cool, collected, okay, and focused. That's what you have to be, right? And the next thing is be inspirational. You have to be able to inspire. Okay, so we're looking for guys that can do that, in that partnership with the player. You got to be able to inspire people. And the third thing, and probably one of the most important things, is challenge. You have to have the heart and the mindset to be able to challenge these guys, because you push them to places they couldn't go themselves. And that's what you do as a coach. That's what you do as a coach. And at the last part is when you do this, when you model, inspire, and you challenge, the last part is encourage, because there's going to be bumps along the road, right? There's going to be downs, right? It's going to get down. It's going to get up. It's going to get down. How do we handle with the success and adversity? But it all goes back to the selection process. You got to get the right kind of guys that are able to do that partnership. That's so important with the player.
Hey, Ryan. Patrick Finley from the Chicago Sun-Times. We saw you hire an assistant GM. There hadn't been one of those in the last regime. Can you tell us, how are you going to structure the front office? And what is the role of analytics in your evaluation of a team? And are you going to hire an analytics department or a person or add to it in any way?
Yeah, the first question you asked with the assistant GM, I thought it was important to bring someone else in with more experience from a different place. Ian's background with the Ravens and then the Eagles, he's seen a lot, under Howie Roseman and Ozzie Newsome, and to add that experience is critical. And then, the big thing is, I've been in a place with turnover, and there's great people in every building. So I want to take the time to evaluate everyone else and get to know them and see what we have. In terms of analytics, absolutely. And I've been blown away. There's some great analytic people in here. We've had we've jumped down rabbit holes talking about different things we want to do. So I'm excited about that. It definitely is a part of our process. It's challenging what our eyes see. And I think that's a beautiful thing about all the data that we have now, is we can challenge what we see and then make the proper decision based off of that. I've always used the analogy, I know how to get home, right? But I plug it into Waze anyways, because it might tell me that there's an accident 2 miles up the road. I can go a different direction. I can still get home in a faster time. Why would we not use that information? So I believe in it, and I'm excited to get started.
I like it.
Came from the Chicago Tribune. You've been able to work under a few different GMs and coaches. How have those different experiences helped you?
Yeah, I mentioned this before. I was able to take a course, the Stanford leadership course, and one of the topics was called Breaking Authenticity, and it really resonated with me because I was able to learn from 3 different GMs that were very, very different, and each one brought some unique things to the table that I was able to use and kind of collect, and allow me to be here and then start to use that philosophy to build my own team and our team.
Hey, Ryan, Adam Hogue, NBC Sports Chicago. You kind of explained why you went with Matt in the end. Can you give us a background on why he was on your list initially? That first Zoom call, you mentioned how he was on your list of candidates. Like, what's the background with you guys, or why did you target him originally as a possibility to be the head coach?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the NFL is what you see on tape usually is a reflection of the person behind it. And it was a fast, violent effort, a very good.
It was a violent effort.
More the style that they played with that got my attention. And then just everyone networks and tries to get to know people throughout the league. So I was able just to call him and meet him, years ago, just to understand what he was all about, what kind of person he was. And from that, there's a little bit of a relationship, but it went even deeper when we got into the interview process.
Dan Reeder, Tribune again.
Yeah, we're
What
not
point in
biting
your career
kneecaps this
journey
year.
did you begin envisioning becoming a general manager? And as an extension of that, going through the interview process a year ago in Carolina, I'm curious what that experience did for you in terms of crystallizing your vision and allowing you to figure out how to communicate it going forward.
Yeah. Can't pinpoint like the exact moment, but it was really seeing the progress and the process start to show itself from where we started in Kansas City to where we ended up. That gets you excited because you're like, I can take some of these things. It's not cookie cutter. I can't just take that model and bring it here, but I can bring all the different pieces. And that got me excited, and that gave me the confidence to know that I can do this. In terms of the interview last year, I would say it just gave me a ton of confidence to be like, I absolutely am ready, because that's the question. Like, are you ready to do this? I am, because I was able to put my philosophy together and give it, and it was well received. It didn't happen then, but I knew that at some point it would. So just getting through that process last year just helped me gain more confidence to do it this year. So, yep.
Gentlemen, hi.
When the
Joe
owner
Reese,
picked me up at the airport, I knew I had the job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ryan, you talked about building through the draft.
Yep.
This year, you only have 5 draft selections. How do you accumulate more, or is there a plan to be able to do that?
Yeah, there's always options to get more draft picks, but we have to get together and see what that looks like.
Please trade
That
down.
comes in different
Please.
forms and fashions. But at the end of the day, we have what we have, and we're going to do the absolute best to maximize those draft picks. And if that means the original draft picks that we have, or finding ways to gain more, we'll do that.
Joe Lewis, Barbershop Network. First, all correct. Congratulations to you.
Joe!
Questions for you,
79th
Matt.
and Hallis,
You talked
baby.
about the penalties. Unfortunately, the Bears, for the past several years, have been making costly penalties at really costly times. How do you break down a foundation? And really, how do you stop that from happening with players who are in the game when you're not in there physically? How are you able to really do that? I'm really asking.
Yeah, I think it's through education. We're teachers. Coaches are really just teachers. That's all we are. We're just teaching football. So you educate. You educate through film. You educate through having officials out there. You educate how important it is to winning, what that penalty did to us in terms of a negative sense, and what playing clean football does for us for a winning sense. So I think that's important. That's just the education process. And you always just touch on it. We'll have situations tape. We'll talk about being smart players, every single week where we go through it with the players, teach them the rules, what's allowed, what isn't allowed, so we can decrease the penalties. So it's a process that you go through, but it's really about education.
Hey guys, Kaylin Kaler from Defector. Welcome to Chicago. This question's for Ryan. I saw on the Bears Twitter feed that you showed up for work before sunrise on your first day. So I'm wondering, what time was that at when you actually kind of showed up at the building? And second part of that would
4:30.
be important to you to make that first impression there.
Yeah. 6 o'clock. Yeah. It's more than first impression. It's a routine. I think if you asked a lot of people about me, I'm curious and I'm observant. And what I do know from those that I've worked for is your time's limited. And if you can capture a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours at night when things are quiet, you can really maximize how much you do. And that's important to me because, in the NFL, things pop up all the time. So you're going to get pulled in different directions. So I just know I can guarantee for the most part that those parts of the day, I can get things done.
Yeah, so don't bother him.
Chicago Sun-Times. My question's for Ryan. Every GM says he wants to build through the draft, but how do you do that? What is the key to it? What is the key to evaluation? Why are some GMs better than others? And what have you learned? And what do they do in Kansas City that you learned that can make you better than others? And to that end, what was your impact on the evaluation of Mahomes in 2017?
Yeah. So in terms of building through the draft, I think what's key is one, knowing what scheme you're running and finding players that fit. That's first and foremost. I think a lot of players get missed if you bring someone in. If I bring someone in going against what we're running, well, then it's not tied together and that's hard to fit. The types of players in terms of their background, what they're about, how passionate they are about football is important too. That's the other place where, misses can happen in terms of, do they love football? Because this is hard. This is really hard. Being a player is very hard. And you got to love it to get up in the morning and want to be the best you can be. And then the piece I hit on earlier in terms of valuation, you got to be able to prioritize certain positions because of supply and demand and place them on the board where you can get them. I think that's the other important part. In terms of Pat, listen, even in the interview process, I said this, I'm not taking credit for any player. The beautiful thing of the process that I'm coming from, and it'll be the process here, it's a group effort. We all get in a room. We're going to start here shortly. We watch tape, and it's open. And I mentioned candor. We're going to be candid. We want to challenge each other without being disrespectful. And that's the only way to get to the truth. So that process was special. A lot of people spoke up. There's different factors that went into it. So I'll give credit to the process. So.
Question for Matt, Jason Leisure again. You're conveying in this press conference at least a very calm, business-like demeanor. I'm curious how much of that is indicative of your coaching style and management style. And somewhat related to that, do you feel like you have been actively looking for a head coaching job, or were you waiting back for the right opportunity to come to you?
Yeah, in terms of my demeanor, that is what it is. I do want to, be intense and focus on the job at hand for sure. I am detail oriented, meaning that I will hold guys to the standard, and I do it the right way because I do it through my heart and making sure I'm trying to find the best way to make them better. In terms of your last question, I do believe that when you go through this process,
it is what it is.
You are where your feet are, and exactly that means exactly that you do your best job where you are. So if you're the defensive coordinator at Missouri, you are doing the very best job you can.
Jordan made a good point, though.
The secondary coach.
You got to think Ryan Poles' knot on his tie is much nicer than Coach Eberflus. So just something.
For the soup snobs, we've got Ryan Poles with a Windsor knot spread collar. You've got Eberflus with a point collar, a 4-in-1
Matt
knot,
Zahn from CBS
notch
Chicago.
lapels.
This question is
Ryan's looking a little more sharp right now.
Players to get their track shoes on, because you're
I'd like a little peak lapel and pick stitching myself, but
a message
it's okay.
like that kind of wearing thin with players after a while. And do you feel like you have to change anything about your coaching style now that you're in charge of everything?
No, I don't think it'll wear thin because that's the rudiments of the game, the fundamentals of the game. So if you're talking about 1920 or you're talking about 2022, those aren't going to change, right? So the premium is on.
So you came here to run the I formation, is what you're saying.
Football team's going to be until you play with maximum effort, and you're only cheating yourself. So to me, that's never going to get it. Okay, I might say it a different way. I might say track shoes or some other type of shoe, but I'm just saying that, the ability to run, and that's coupled with who we bring in, the speed, the explosive athletic ability of the players we acquire, okay, is going to be as or more important, of what we want to get done. So, yeah.
Matt, Patrick Finley from the Sun-Times again. You're a first-time head coach. Your offensive coordinator is a first-time offensive coordinator. As you fill out your staff, are you going to put an emphasis on experience? Would you like a former head coach here to help you along the way? Would you like somebody with 20 years of coordinator experience? Or I'm throwing out hypotheticals.
And is his name Rod Marinelli?
How will you round out a staff to make the experience level what you want?
So I talked before a little bit about what I want in a coach. So now you're talking about something that's different. So you're talking about chemistry now. So chemistry is getting people to work together, okay, with the right mindset, having able to partnership, having a brotherhood with another guy.
Matt really talks with his hands.
Defensive staff, special team staff, to me, they're certainly working together, all the time. And I want to call that, I say to the guys jokingly, I say, hey guys, we're soulmates, but we're also cellmates because we are in there 24/7.
Soulmates and cellmates.
Of us working together.
Good.
Wow.
And spoonmates.
The guy, the man, the coach. And that's going to be a big process. So to me, when I'm looking at, and we're looking at the offensive staff, we're looking at the defensive staff, It's a combination of all those things. And we'll take it one step further. Okay, so you got offense.
It's like a circle.
More importantly, of the whole.
It's like a
global
carousel.
part
You
of
put the
it,
quarter
because I've
in,
been on
it goes
staff where the
round and
offense is
round
over
like a
here,
circle.
The defense is over here, and the special teams is over there. No, we're crossing the aisle.
I guess I just didn't notice it, but now that I'm looking, he literally won't stop.
And the same thing with our football team. Quarterback, defensive line, receivers.
Doing the
tight ends.
Macarena.
Poles is like backing up. He's like, whoa, how far is this wingspan going to go here?
Team, a football team, not an offensive unit, not a defensive unit, not a special teams unit. It starts with the coach.
It's like a mime.
From the athletic, this is for you, Ryan. As you're weighing your situation, comparing the Bears with other teams, namely the Vikings, I'm curious, how appealing was it to have a young quarterback on his rookie contract?
Yeah,
What do you
take a
think you
shot at the
left with here
Vikings.
from the
Come on,
previous regime
boys.
in terms of building blocks.
Feed
for
us.
coaches for your team.
Yeah, there's always, talented players, in every organization, and that's especially true here. I'm excited, to have Justin and to put him in a position to succeed and get players in the building that are going to help amplify his ability.
Hey,
I
man,
need a
Mark
better
Grody
shot
again
at
from
Kirk
the score.
Cousins. I mean, come
The
on,
Bears
guys.
have run a 3-4 defense for the past several years. Are you open to keeping that, or will you go with sort of what you have been?
Here we go.
Yeah, so this will be the third time that we switch, from a 3-4 to a 4-3, or that I've been involved in that switch over. Will we have elements of
Experience.
3-4? Sure, we have that. We're going to adjust and move and be flexible. We're going to look at the talents and skill level of the players we have, and we're going to coach and develop those guys. And we'll fit our scheme around those players. But the foundational pieces won't change in terms of how we play.
I'm Michelle Steele from ESPN. This is a question for Ryan. I had a follow-up about your process, and congratulations to you guys as well. You said that the moment that Matt walked into the room, you knew that he was the guy. What did you see in Matt's coaching experience, as his experience as a defensive coordinator, that he'd be the best fit for this team with a young quarterback to develop?
Yeah, it was his standard. He had a high standard for what he wanted out of a team, and he had a plan to raise the bar in terms of what we were going to become. His passion for the game, his discipline, those are some of the key ingredients to get a team off the ground and headed in the right direction. And then, connections to, a really good staff as well. That was important, and a plan that wasn't just short-term, but there was long-term thought into it as well.
Matt, David Hogg again from the score. So when you talk about inspiring and challenging and encouraging players, does that still work with professional athletes? Aren't they mostly interested in how you can improve them rather than inspire them at this stage of their careers?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I believe that's part of it. If you're going to improve them, you have to inspire them to change, because everything comes from the heart. When you think about how we do things and how we change, let's think about habits.
Oh, here we go.
So how do you treat?
Hands are going.
We all want to hope. It's New Year's, right? We all want to hope we lose 20 pounds, me included, right? So then I want to read more. I want to listen better, right? We always have those hopes, right? So hopes. How do you turn hopes into habits? How do you do that? Well, first of all, look at the mistakes people make. Well, they understand, what they want to do. Lose weight, read, right? All that, right?
Yeah, we see your habits.
How do you do it? So you have to study, you have to learn. You have to make sure you do that, right? The next thing is that people, when they go from hopes to habits, the next mistake they make is they get going and it's too hard. They don't see results, right? So what do? They stop. We've all done that. I've done it, right? With losing weight, all that stuff, right? So hopes to habits. And then the last thing is,
Well, at least we know he won't be as stiff like John Fox.
Because that's the most important thing. That comes from the inside. Your healthy identity of yourself creates what? Wise decisions. Wise decisions creates healthy habits. So there you go, back and forth, and it goes round and around.
We get it. We all need to lose a few pounds. All right, Matt? You're skinny. I don't want to hear it.
Now, once you get your habits established, it turns to victories. And that's what it does. So to me, you're dealing with a person from the inside out. Okay, that's how you affect real change. And it starts right there.
Guys, Hub Arkish again, Pro Football Weekly and Shaw Media. This is really for both of you.
Hub Arkish, enemy
you both
of
had multiple
Aaron
interviews,
Rodgers.
and I'm wondering how much time, or did you have time to spend studying the roster, the talent already here, and how much of an impact did that have on your desire to be here?
Yeah, before any interview, you need to take the time to know, what that team has and what it needs. So that was, a big factor in terms of.
Now, if Matt started moving his hands while Ryan
Yeah,
talked,
I would say that
then
it
we'd
starts
be
really from,
concerned.
when you look at it, what's the potential? I know potential's a taboo word in football, but what's the dynamic of the team? Starting with the leadership with George, the support that he's going to give, and the Chicago Bears.
Let's stop bringing up George.
Yeah, don't talk about
That's a big
George.
piece of it.
Is he wearing a suit?
Dion Miller again from ABC7 here in Chicago. Matt, my question for you is obviously you've gotten buy-in from defensive players. How do you get buy-in from an entire team and in knowing how to establish the right culture?
Yeah, I just show them the why.
Oh,
Oh no!
You show them why.
Oh,
Asking
party
did
over.
not
the
just
staff and what we're gonna do.
say that.
The things we're going to hold them accountable to, the standards.
No!
What does it equal winning? It equals winning.
No!
The elite teams in the league do this, and this is why they win. Coupled with obviously the talent, we start establishing that ground level, our floor for our house, the cement that we got to pour. That's going to take time. Then we're going to start building our house. When you build a house, that's player acquisition, that's skill level, right? It starts to rise, but you cannot win a championship right here without that foundational pieces there. Because
Beck, he said he's trying to, show people the why.
So we got to make sure that we do.
They asked him how he'd secure buy-in, and he said, "I got to show him the why."
It's always about the why. Equals winning.
Coach, there's obviously going to be roster turnover, but
ship right off the
guys
Nagy
that are on
block.
this roster, defensively, as a defensive guy, who are some of the players on this roster that excite you? And can you speak specifically about Roquan Smith and what your plan may be for him?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that excite me. Roquan is certainly one of them. I'm not going to get into details for every single position, every single player. But yes, there's a lot of talent, a lot of guys that play the game the right way, and we certainly need to improve how we're doing that. But that's part of the process.
Matt, understanding that you've obviously got a lot more to watch on Justin, I'm curious what your thumbnail scouting report on Justin is as a quarterback, and then along with that, how you see Luke having the ability to energize Justin when they get together.
Yeah, just a thumbnail, athletic, right? Super, leader. I think he's going to be really good. In terms of that, we got to develop all those things. But in terms of like with Luke, he's, like I said, very innovative, very smart. He's excited to get to work with him, when he's able to. But yeah, that's going to be a nice thing to watch and be part of.
Hey, Matt, Alex Shapiro at NBC Sports Chicago again. I'm curious, have you spoken to any of the players yet about making the transition to a 4-3 defense? And if so, what's their reception been?
Yeah, I haven't. I've spoken to players, but not about football. Just about, introducing myself, pleasantries, talking to them, saying, just talking to them about ball and, just general things right now. So about several players. I texted them, talked to them, saw some guys in the training room. Guys have come to me and met with me in my office and stuff. It's been great.
Yeah, Joe Louis Barber Chair Network again. Matt, this question is about vocal leadership in the locker room. How important is that for you? I know George McCaskey talked about David Montgomery and Roquan Smith and how important their leadership is. How important is it for you to not only have someone who can lead by example, but actually lead by talking within the locker room?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's the chicken before the egg, right? The question of, hey, is it better to have a vocal leader or a guy who leads by example? And to me, I always say to the guys, and I'll say this, is that it's doing. You do. You inspire by doing, by performing in execution first, and then you do it by your words. So it's to me, it's in that order. It's in that order.
Hey guys, Kaylin Kaler with Defector again. The last few regimes here haven't been aligned completely in terms of head coach, general manager, and quarterback. Most recently, you had Pace who hired Nagy, but then Nagy inherited Mitch Trubisky. Pace inherited Jay Cutler. So you guys are obviously inheriting a quarterback here as well. So I'm curious for your thoughts on how, why you think that will work and what are the challenges in inheriting a quarterback that you didn't get to pick yourself?
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to work, with Matt and come up with that plan. I know, from our conversations that we're lined up and we have a plan of attack, and we're confident about that. I understand, the past, but we're focused on moving forward. We have a talented player that you've mentioned, and we're going to attack it. And I know he's got the work ethic to get it done too. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm excited about organizing with Ryan, our offensive staff, and getting those guys together. And those guys start to meet, and ideas start to go, and they start to formulate, terminology, formations, motions, shifts, and as they get going there, and then
he's
working that out.
Probably a really good magician.
And then getting the
Look at
players
the
off the
hand.
field.
Look
So
at
that's
the
what I'm
hand.
excited about.
Matt, Adam Hogue again. Quick question and a follow-up. Do you plan on calling the defense as the head coach, or do you envision kind of overlooking everything and handing those responsibilities off to your DC?
Okay. You want to do the follow-up question now? Or?
Well, sure. The follow-up is kind of unrelated, but I was curious last year when you prepped to play the Bears. I know some of the personnel is different, but when you went into that game, what types of things were you worried about when you were prepping? I think you held them to 11 points in that game.
Yeah. So to answer your first question, I do believe that to be the head football coach and be efficient at that, you are exactly the head football coach. So I can be involved in all aspects of the game. So the defensive coordinator that we hire will call the defensive plays. I will not do that. Okay. In terms of like when we came up here, a couple years ago, I think now, it's like anything. It's an X and O matchup, and you look at it as that, and you design your defense what you feel is relative to, for victory. And
His hands have been down for a while. I'm worried.
Want to bring that same style here, to encompass what we're doing, in terms of the hitting, taking the ball away, playing with maximum intensity, right, and being smart about how we do it.
Hey, Matt, Kevin Fishbane again from The Athletic. Ryan talked about his first impression of you. I'm wondering what you knew about him in terms of evaluating, because you obviously are going to want to be aligned with a GM who's going to share your vision and someone who's going to pick players that you want to coach. So what did you know about him, and what did you kind of learn about him in this process?
Yeah, so just like Ryan was researching me, I'm researching him, and you go around the league
and he's
you
back.
ask, other executives through the course of the league, man. You're talking about, innovative, smart, detailed, tough. That's the most important thing, tough. Are you tough mentally and physically to be able to do this job? And that was the one thing I inquired about. And everybody that I said answered yes, yes, and yes every single time. This guy's mentally and physically tough, because again, we're going to go up and down and be able to stay focused on the job at hand. And that's what they were saying about Ryan.
I think he's
As I got to know
consciously
him,
trying to keep his
and we
hands
started
still.
talking, man, what a good man he is.
He's like sitting on him.
Right.
That's important to me, because that shows to me character, and it shows
His wife probably texted him.
to me. So he has that, obviously, but it's been a pleasure to get this.
But even he's still talking with the rest of his body. He's like, yeah.
Mike Mulligan from the Score. I'm just curious. There's been decent defense played here. They've played pretty good defense, but they can't score points, or they haven't been able to score touchdowns. Have you discussed how to change that? And you mentioned explosiveness. Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, explosive athletic ability is one of the traits we're looking for, and that equals chunk plays on offense, and it equals stopping chunk plays on defense. You want to score points, you got to get chunk plays, you got to get big plays. That's how you score. And
Big plays are
scores,
nice.
Eliminate those plays. So that comes down to the athletes we're bringing in here. You see it all the time. Saw it last night. Throwing a quick screen and it's blocked well, but you can see the athlete on the perimeter take that thing to the, all the way to score a touchdown. So that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I'd love Debo Samuel if you wouldn't mind picking him up. That'd be great.
I'd like to add to that as well. I think it starts at the foundation in terms of the O-line and establishing that run game, which then leads to explosive plays. So we got to continue to work on that and get that to a level. And I think you'll start to see more points be scored, and more efficiency, more explosive plays. Everything kind of plays off of that. So that's going to be a focal point.
Hey guys, this is for both of you. John Greenberg from The Athletic. I had a question. You've talked about your mentors and kind of the road you've gotten here. Did you ask anyone questions about what it's like running an organization or being the head coach? And what kind of advice did you get, about starting off the right way?
Yeah, I certainly did ask that question. And starting off the right way to me is establishing a clear and concise vision for what you want the football team to look like. And that's what we're in the process of doing. You know, we obviously started through the interview process with that vision, and we're getting it off the ground now and starting to move it in the right direction. So that's really what the advice I got.
For me, the common advice I got was discipline. Stay disciplined because we all want to do things fast. We want results fast. There are shortcuts at every turn when you're building a roster. So being disciplined and doing things the right way, and that's hard, you know, because we all, you know, we want championships.
Better
right
make the
now,
right moves,
and we're gonna
guys.
aim for that, but we
Or
have
you'll
to do
have this guy
smart
to
things
answer
when we build a
to.
roster. And not the things that are gonna, you know, shortcut us to where we want to go.
Will would like to hand
Hey
participation
guys, Adam
trophies
from The
out to
Athletic.
Matt
I'm
and
curious,
Ryan.
as you're meeting with other teams, the Jaguars, the Vikings, and whatnot, Bill Polian's place.
I mean, Will, if you're
in
going to
the
show up
Bears
at the
interview,
presser,
what is
at
that
least
like?
wear
How
a
would you
suit.
describe his input, the feedback, the conversations about football that you guys had with Bill Polian through your interview process with the Bears?
I thought it was great. I started asking him questions. You know, like
Does Ryan kind of look like Jordan Cornette, or is it just
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan said he was
And that'll
looking
continue.
forward
I
to
called him
being
multiple
confused
times
by
after,
Ryan
and I'll
Poles every
continue
time he
to
comes
do
to
so.
Chicago now.
Anytime you meet someone that's been
They do.
a high achiever,
They do really look like.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Just a Hall of Fame executive. I mean, built tremendous rosters at a few spots, and to have a conversation, you know, with the committee, you know, with George and Bill, to me that was a treat. I just enjoyed that.
Dude, how does Ghost Rider have this on his
Just,
text?
on
This is
Zoom, and,
insane.
man, it was a treat to do that, and I really enjoyed it.
It's
Hey guys, Mark
it's an
Rose from
emote on my
Score again.
channel.
What is the next
amazing.
48 hours going to be like for you guys in terms of getting right to work? And how much sleep have each of you had in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We actually both slept very good last night, but the couple of nights before that weren't that great. You're waking up at 3 and stuff like that, thinking about have a pad next to your bed and be able to write stuff down so you can at least attempt to go back to sleep. But for me, the 48 hours is, you know, just working hand in hand with Ryan. You know, for me directly.
Somebody call up Will.
really
Tell him to get in the
talking
chat.
to,
We miss
you know,
him.
putting slips in, talking to coaches, and selection of coaches is probably the most pressing thing for me right now.
Yeah, we have free agency coming up, so we're gonna start meetings tomorrow. We're gonna shoot down to
How about
Super Bowl,
today, boys? Okay.
on those players and meet the scouts that are down there as
What
well.
are you What are you doing the rest of the day?
It's
Come
coming
on
quick,
now.
so we're trying to get all those things laid out.
Ryan, Mark Potash from the Sun-Times again. I just wanted to circle back to the hiring of Matt. This is your first hire as a GM. What experience do you have in hiring, interviewing people that has led you to trust your intuition about head coaches as opposed to having a more expansive search?
Yeah, it's what translates really well is when you interview a lot of players over the last 10 to 14 years. You're looking for key things. You have a checklist of what you're looking for in that person, in that player. And it really isn't that much different in looking for a leader. You had certain criteria you were looking for. And there's been times where we've interviewed players and you go, there's something about that guy. And sure enough, they end up having a really good career and being successful because they just embody everything you're looking for.
If you were given the opportunity to do a more expansive search, would you have done it?
I was given the opportunity. I found him.
Ooh, Ryan. Meet Mark
You were a little bit
Potash.
emotional in your introduction when you were talking about Kansas City. I'm curious if you could sort of explain what was behind that emotion for you and what turning that page is like for you here.
Yeah, I grew up with those guys, you know. We joked about it all the time just in terms of, you know, starting at the very bottom and working up. And for a lot of them, I have deep relationships with that. When we first started, it was hard. It was really, really hard. It was difficult. There was a lot of losing. There was a lot of pushback. And when you fight through something with people, you grow tight with them. And when you have success with them, it's even better. And that's what I look forward to doing here. But that's the emotional part. Like, you go through a lot with people and have success. You have a bond that it'll be a lifetime friendship.
With Brett Beach in particular, what are some of the things you learned about being a general manager from being under him?
Yeah. The big thing is collaboration. He brought all of us together. It was
Come on,
let's
guys.
sit down and let's fix the problem. Brett has a relentlessness.
Jesus Christ,
in
did it?
terms of attacking a roster that I've never seen before.
Why
His
is
brain
it
doesn't stop
collaboration?
coming up with scenarios, and he throws it to us. Not afraid of if it doesn't make sense or if it doesn't work, but he just continues to throw those ideas out, and collectively we bounce it around and we form a plan and we execute. So just that relentlessness to fix the roster and to improve the roster and get good players on the team is kind of what I take from him.
Ryan, this is Pat at the Sun-Times again. Curious what your relationship with Matt Nagy was from being together with the Chiefs, and
Yeah.
do you reach out to him when you're considering this? Do you get a scouting report at all
Yeah,
from him?
I reach out to everyone, and we did cross paths in Kansas City, and I thought he's a really good man. And I know it didn't work out here, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I reached out to him just to get a lay of the land and understand where he might have messed up. I think that's the thing about a lot of people in my life that I mentioned before, including Matt, is they all take ownership of their experiences. And I would challenge any leader, any GM, any head coach to make sure that you do that with your understudies and your mentors and your friends, because that helps me avoid some potholes and things, that I won't get tripped up on because you opened up to me and said, hey, this is where I messed up, or I wish I did this a little bit different. So I'm taking notes like crazy, talking to all of these people that I've mentioned today. It only helps me.
You more, Jesse?
Jesse
Two
Rogers,
more.
ESPN. Now this is for you, Ryan. Why the many former players going to the coaching carousel? Why the executive route, and along those lines, why do you think you're maybe suited better to be an executive than a coach?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. It happened early. The thought of building a roster just always, resonated with me, and it's what I wanted to do. I think it's interesting to be able to change culture of a team by bringing in people that reflect that. If you keep adding those same type of players to the roster, all of a sudden you're tough, you're passionate, you run hard to the ball, you're violent, you're fast.
He likes to play real life fantasy football
To me,
instead of
it's a
coaching.
really cool process. And when you see the end result, I think that's very rewarding.
Hey, Matt, Ryan, Nicholas Morion, the Chicago Audible. Matt, where did the idea come from to use the ball hawk shirts when your defense gets turnovers? And do you plan to bring that here to Chicago?
Yeah, we'll certainly talk about it. It was very effective, So the ball hawk shirts we give to all the guys, and the point system is a point system that has been used here before. You get 1 point for a cause, 1 point for a recovered, 1 point for an interception, 2 points for a
You get a
score.
golden
That's
star.
a board that goes back 30 years. In the Chicago
He's
Bears
handing
football
out
league,
participation trophies
Urlacher,
pretty much.
Pepper, Peppers, Tillman, all those guys, Briggs, they were part of that. They were on that board in terms of the number, the all-time number. So those numbers are carried through it right there, and we give a guy a ball hawk shirt every time and a ball hawk trophy at the end. Who's the leader of the football team? So I'm excited about talking to the staff about that, but it'll be certainly a topic of conversation.
David Hoffman, Score again. Just for the sake of accuracy, do you guys have the same agent, and did that relationship have anything to do with you guys knowing each other prior to this process or throughout the process?
Yeah. I'm sure, in terms of just getting a hold of each other, in contact with each other, that plays a part.
Yeah, it was easy transition, or easier, I should say.
Herb Howard, the Bigs Media. Coach, philosophically, and obviously you'll may shift game by game on game situations, but as a general philosophy, will you coach to your defense? Meaning, like, when it's time to make decisions on maybe punting versus going for it, will you kind of coach to your defenses in terms of putting them in the best position possible? Is that a philosophy of yours?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that's a game-by-game decision. You got to look at the situation of the game. Who are you playing on offense? Who you're playing on defense on the opposing side? I think all those things come into play of your decisions to go for it, or the decisions made in the game. So.
Brad Biggs, Chicago Tribune. I'm wondering if you guys could share the length of the contracts that you signed.
Yeah, so we're not going to discuss the length of contracts.
Oh boy, here we go again.
So we're not doing that.
Alex Shapiro, NBC Sports Chicago again. Matt, I'm curious, given your experience as the defensive passing coordinator in Dallas, thinking about how you attacked passing attacks, does that influence you, or rather, does that leak into the offensive room? Would you go to Luke, hey, here's how I would attack us. Will you help out in any of that regard, or is it kind of going to be Luke's show?
Yeah, I'm excited about doing that. That's a great question. That's the kind of the dual education that I'm talking about for the quarterback and also for the offensive staff. You know, where I can go in there and say, hey guys, this is the coverage they're running. This is how you attack it with this route concept. And it doesn't have to look the same. It can look different. You can formation it different. You can put different motions to it. But this is a problem. And here are the tells. Here are the tells, the alignments of what you're going to see. This guy's giving it away. This guy's not giving it away. And then really being able to attack coverages that way. So I'm excited about going on the other side and doing that.
That wraps up the press conference, the introductory press conference for our new GM, Ryan Poles, and our new head coach, Matt Eberflus. There they are taking their photo op picture, smiles all around. A very collaborative effort, if you will, between the two guys today. But I mean, certainly, you know, everybody, you know, it's not about winning the press conference, it's about winning the Super Bowl. But you have to like what you heard from today. There's nothing really aside from when Matt Eberflus, you know, slipped up and said he's going to show him the whys. I mean, I did see a lot of people pointing out on Twitter and here in our Twitch chat. You know, at least he knows where the whys are and he's going to show them, as opposed to Nagy saying he has to find the whys every week.
All right.
There's George McCaskey. Is he going to come up and say more words? Or is he just going to go?
Well, as you just saw, Matt and Ryan are football guys.
Your mic's a little there's a little choppy there. It's okay. There's some static coming through. So what, George is gonna talk now? With his mask on? I mean, I'm no mask like I'm not a hater to those that choose to wear their mask. My wife's a nurse. I believe in science, but you know, at the same time, you know, I don't know. It'd be kind of weird if he didn't take it off. If he's going, it looks like George McCaskey's getting ready to answer some questions. So we'll have to hear what George has to say here. Nice suit from George today. He's not wearing his O'Hare Airport attire. We'll see if he has any questions or if he answers any questions. Oh, there he goes. He's going to show us his beautiful smiling face and that
George,
Midwest
mustache.
mustache.
First of all, you just interviewed 23 top candidates for GM and head coach. And through the process, I'm curious what, if anything, you learned about your organization from talking to them. And then just to follow up, is you've also created a new position already with assistant general manager Ian Cunningham. Was that all agreed to and worked out with Ryan before he took the job and you offered the job?
I think to a man, the candidates were appreciative of the Bears' history.
He's got his suit on, Matt.
For getting us back to where we belong. We did talk to Ryan about how his player personnel department would be structured, and assistant general manager was one of the positions that he mentioned.
Couple questions, George. First one, how much conversation among the search group, if any, involved or revolved
Taco
around the
Grease
fact that you were
referencing the
hiring
Chappelle
two
show.
first-year guys from the job that did that cause any
Show it your face.
pause at all?
I wouldn't say so. We talked about the qualities that each of the candidates, Ryan and Matt, brought to the position, and our recommendation and our comments about the candidates to Ryan were based on what we thought they could bring to the Bears, and you know, he's well aware of their backgrounds and their experience.
Quick follow-up. What's the reason for not announcing how long their contracts are? I think fans would love to know, you know, some sort of timeline, how much faith you have, and then those sort of things.
Yeah, I think as an organization, it's just out of respect for the individual. That's a a private matter, and if the individual wishes to make it public, they're welcome to, but I don't think that's the Bears' place.
George, be honest. Ryan and Matt again.
Oh, that's a great
Any
question.
concern there?
Look at George's face.
Thank you.
No, in all seriousness, both men are first time, as GM and head coach. Any trepidation with that? And what above all else makes you think that they'll be able to handle those?
Mike Berman may never be allowed at Alice Hall again. Look at
I
George's
think you
face.
saw the qualities that they display, and those are the qualities that we're excited about. I would say that the better word is excitement.
I mean, to be fair, it's
George,
a good question.
when during
Like,
the process,
did you not think
did
that
Ryan
the
Poles
optics
come
would
on
look
your radar?
bad?
How did he come on your radar initially?
It was part of the discussion among the search team. We relied heavily on Bill's recommendation. He has a lot of contacts around the league and had heard good things about him and thought we should interview him. And we were very impressed with him when we conducted that interview.
Said it was unanimous amongst the room in terms of the impression he made. Specifics in that interview that left you feeling that way when you left that interview.
The qualities that I mentioned, his direct manner, his confidence, his poise, his philosophy and vision
I'm just
for
waiting
building
for
the
them
Bears.
to ask about how his
George, can you
airport
explain
attire
a little bit about
went
the
viral.
search for the coach?
You know it's
specifically,
coming.
and the course you guys took, interviewing candidates, and then
Patrick Finley will
did the
probably be the one to
approach to
ask
that
it.
search change once you hired Ryan Poles?
Well, there were some candidates who were only available during certain windows. And so we wanted to get a head start on the head coaching search so that when we turned it over to whoever the general manager was, he would have that base of knowledge in order to move forward. And as Ryan mentioned, Matt was on his list of candidates that he liked for the head coaching position. So we had already lined up a second interview with Matt before Ryan came back for his second interview.
Just to follow up on that, George. So 3 weeks ago, you said you would be the one who would have the final say on the head coach and general manager selection. And then it's been made pretty clear, Ryan interviewed the 3 finalists on his own and made the decision by himself. What changed?
Well, I told Ryan that I was fine with any of the 3 finalist candidates that he wanted to interview. And it was his decision.
Hey, George, to go back to you mentioning that the second interview was requested of Matt before. I think even Ryan was interviewed. I think the request came on Friday. The interview was on Saturday. So when Matt's name comes up in your conversations with Ryan, I mean, how much does that pique your interest? How encouraged were you that the committee's search might align with Ryan's search?
Yeah, that was an important consideration for us. We wanted that that partnership to be solid. It's so important for us to get the results that we want for that partnership to work. So when we interviewed Matt, and then I'm not sure exactly what the order was, but when Ryan mentioned that Matt was on his list, that was significant to us.
George, the interviews you did, 13 GM, 10 head coach, did you learn something from each one, or at some point was there diminishing returns in spending 2 full weeks kind of combing through a list?
I would say the best part of the interviews, and Ryan and Matt both referenced it, is when Bill Polian's talking football with a general manager candidate or a head coaching candidate, all you can do is sit back and soak up the knowledge. It was an exciting and educational opportunity for us.
What was it like? What have the last couple weeks been like in terms of hours spent on all of this?
Oh, it was kind of a whirlwind for us. Bill brought back 2-a-days, and I think one day we had 3 interviews in one day. That was a bit of a slog, but the important thing was to get as much information as possible, as quickly as possible, because once we saw the people that we wanted, we had to move quickly.
Hey, George, you've done a few of these, and I'm sure you are confident after each one. You know, with Phil Emery and with Ryan Pace, how did those experiences maybe affect this kind of decision you made and the search? And I think a quick follow up would be: did you actually drive when you picked up Ryan at the airport? I know that was a question people had.
I think every experience has its benefits. Hopefully, you're learning from the experiences, both positive and negative, and that helps frame your reference in the selection process. Yes, I drive, parked in the garage, White Sox level, $3 to the city.
George, when it comes to the length
That's
of
real love.
contracts, you guys used to announce that. I remember specifically when you moved on from John Fox, you announced that Ryan Pace had been extended through the 2021 season. So I guess what has changed? Why has that now become something I think you call private?
Yeah, we thought about it. We talked about it and talked to Matt and Ryan about what their preference was, and their preference that it not be disclosed, and we're honoring that request.
George, did you guys reach out to Jim Harbaugh at all? And if not, why not?
After each of the interviews that we conducted, we released a statement confirming that we had spoken to that candidate, and we're not going to engage in speculation about what other candidates could have been interviewed.
I trust Jeff Hughes. They had a conversation, no formal interview.
Out with the Bigs Media. George, you had the VP of Diversity and Inclusion, Tanisha Wade, as well as Soup Campbell, both of whom are Black, on the search committee. Why was that important to you? And then how significant was that, considering that you landed on a 36-year-old Black man as GM of Chicago Bears?
I thought they were both terrific. Very glad that we had them as part of the process. We wanted to have a diverse field of candidates and give as many candidates as possible a full, open, and complete opportunity to present their credentials to us, and very pleased with the result.
Hi, George. Why was it important for you to meet Ryan at the airport, and what did you learn about him in your commute back here?
I wanted to show him that we care. I wanted he and I to have the opportunity to speak one-on-one, and I wanted him to have the opportunity to see Hallis Hall if he wanted to, which he did.
George, I asked actually Matt and Ryan about this, knowing now what the Bengals did in 2 years and knowing the mood of the fan base out there. What is your level of expectation, level of patience with this new regime?
Well, we're very excited to have them on board. And at this point, I think we have to give them an opportunity to assess the roster and crystallize what our needs are. But we're very excited about the future.
George bought Ryan pulls a McDouble with cheese on the way down. So I think that's it for George McCaskey. Short and sweet. Said he gave $3 to the city when he parked at on the White Sox level of the parking garage at.
It's Justin.
Oh, Justin Fields.
It's Justin. Oh.
What's just happened here?
No.
Trey,
No.
pull that up. Let's see if they're going to talk to Justin. Something just happened, but Justin appeared, which was cool. And maybe they're doing a whole new stream for Justin.
Yep.
And they are. And here is Justin Fields, our
Let's go.
QB1.
Let's go.
A surprise.
The face of the franchise. Let's go.
You know, his presence. He's confident when he talks. He knows what.
I like this move.
Set in stone, and I'm just really ready to lead with him, and just get ready for next year.
Oh, sorry. Luke Getsy being hired as the offensive coordinator. How much do you know about him? Have you spoken to anyone around the league? And just what are your thoughts on working with someone that you will be that close with?
Yeah, I haven't met him yet, so I don't know much about him. But of course, Green Bay, they've had a pretty good offense for the past few years, and really past I don't even know how many years. But I'm just glad he's here and excited to get to work with him. So yeah.
Justin, did you have any interaction with the coaching finalists before a decision was made? And
no.
Okay, so when did Coach Eberflus reach out to you?
Yeah, he
Thursday
just
morning?
reached out to me via text, and then we kind of set up a meeting time, and I just got to meet him and introduce myself. So, sure.
Justin, now that you've had some time to away from the season, when you look back now, how do you assess your season, everything that went down this year, and what are you doing right now?
This season I learned a lot this past season. Of course, there were a lot of ups and downs, but you learn from those downs and you continue to work and get better. That's the only thing you can do. So, of course, I'm excited for next season, and now I'm just working out. Going back to Georgia soon. So, yes, sir. So just working out, trying to get ready for next season.
Justin, at least the last few years, even going back to Ohio State, you come in used to working with a head coach who's heavily involved in the offense, calling plays, things like that. Are you excited? I mean, what is your feelings about working with an OC that's kind of have autonomy of the offense with a defensive-minded head coach overseeing everything?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Having a defensive head coach, I feel like there are some positives to that. I feel like offense. Being on the offense, you kind of know what the defense is doing, but you don't know what, fully they're doing. So, they're running a certain type of coverage, but, when you have a defensive head coach, he's able to explain to you what their jobs are, what their certain assignments are in a certain coverage. So I think, that's one plus on having a defensive head coach. And, of course, as far as the offensive coordinator, I think, it's going to be awesome just, having him, solely just focus on the offense and getting that working, just like you said. So I'm excited.
Matt said a few times about putting players in the right position to succeed and enhancing their strengths. What are your thoughts on working with both the head coach and the offense coordinator to bring the best out of you by putting you in those positions?
I mean, I'm excited. I think everyone knows, not only my teammates, but everyone around here knows that, I'm willing to do whatever to win. Willing to put in, however much work there is need to be put in. So, like I said before, I'm excited and I, can't wait to get to work.
Yeah, Justin, Matt talked about having leadership, lead by example first, and then step into it vocally. He also praised your leadership. How do you hope in your second year to step into an even more bigger leadership role now that you're not a rookie?
Yeah, I think last year was kind of weird. Just me not starting the season, being the starting quarterback. So it was kind of
call him out, Justin.
I think me and Andy would kind of switch off, but now that I am starting off the season as a starting quarterback, I think I'll be more comfortable playing that leader role, and there's no more he's a rookie, this and that. It's time now. So I'm excited, like I said before, and I can't wait to get to work.
Justin, between now and April, when you guys are able to get back together and get out on the field, what kind of homework do you anticipate doing?
God, I can't
more
wait.
about Coach Getsy's system and the types of things that he'll ask out of you within that?
You said what kind of homework am I going to be doing?
Yeah, in the next couple of months, just getting more familiarity with what he does. And how
just learning a new playbook. A playbook that I'm excited to learn, and of course it's new. Don't really know, the terminology and stuff that goes within it, but I'm excited to get to meet him and get to learn.
Maybe some go routes.
Get this thing going.
Less hitches.
On him as a coach yet from anyone?
Some bootlegs.
So I'm excited to. So we'll see.
Justin, as you're meeting with and getting to know Matt and Luke, what do you want them to know about you? What's kind of the message that you're trying to get across to them as you start?
Calm down, Collector's Cave.
Just the kind of person I am. I talked to, of course, Coach Nagy, Flip, and Laser, and the advice that they just gave me was to just be myself. So that's what I'm gonna do. Show them who I am. Show them how hard I work and what I bring to the table. So I think that's it's really simple. I mean, I don't have to do anything too much. Just be who I am and be myself. So yeah. I mean, yes. After the whole thing went down, of course, they gave me some advice just with the new coaching staff coming in, just to be myself. So, sure.
Justin, starting from scratch here, brand new offense, and obviously the coaches have their own views. Do you want to have a lot of input in the kind of offense that's put into place? Do you want to tell them the things you like and don't like to do? Because probably the only time you can do that, as you instill a new offense, for the team.
I mean, yeah, I think, it's important for, coaches to, run plays that, their players are good at running. And I think they kind of already have a base idea of what my strengths are, but, me being able to communicate with them now to kind of tell them, what my strengths are, and, we can get on the same page. But, there's going to be some new stuff that, that we didn't run last year that works and that I've never done before that they're going to want me to learn. So, I'm going to, talk to them, see what they need me to do, see what they need me to learn, and then work on that in the off season. And then by the time training camp gets around, I'll know it. So, sure.
Justin, you were obviously drafted here to become the face of this franchise. What does it mean to you personally on a day like this when they're introducing the new GM and head coach that they've asked you to come here and kind of speak on behalf of the players? What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, it means a lot, just being in this position. I definitely wouldn't be in this position without God, so I'm just thankful. And I think really that's the only word for it you can give, just thankful, and kind of just, I think last year you would say I was kind of weird just being in this position, because if you tell me 10 years ago, I wouldn't be in it now. But, now it's, I'm getting more and more used to it, so kind of just being in this position. But, kind of taking a step back and looking at it from a different perspective, just thankful for everything. So,
Justin, big picture for you. What does the fresh start mean to you, or how good does it feel for you to reset things?
Call on it.
It definitely feels good. Just having a clean slate and fresh start, and just talking with Ryan and Coach. I just feel like they have a great plan and set in place, and I'm just excited to follow it. So, it feels good though.
Okay, that was essentially my question, so I'm gonna reframe it a little bit. Did you watch the postseason, and if you did, were you excited to prove your place among the young quarterbacks that are getting that attention right now?
I mean, yeah, I did watch the postseason, of course, and Super Bowl's coming up. But I'm definitely excited. But looking at the young quarterbacks, you have to know that everybody's journey is not going to be the same. You're going to have your own journey. So whatever that is, whatever that may be, I'm excited for it, and I'm just gonna stay humble the whole time, and keep working. So I'm excited. Appreciate you guys.
And there he is, Justin Fields, QB1. I don't think that Nick Foles will be called to the podium next, as our guy, somebody on Twitter pointed out on this. Cam Ellis suggested that the Bears should do that just to piss everybody off. But that wraps everything up here for all the press conferences for the day. We saw Matt Eberflus, we saw Ryan Poles, we saw George McCaskey. Now we saw Justin Fields. Trey, your mic is muted. I cannot unmute it. It said you muted it. So I don't know. It says can't unmute your guests. Their mic isn't connected. Okay, now it's connected. There's Trey doing his thing. He's back.
You hear anything I said? No.
Yeah, it was only muted for a second. So there it is. All the press conferences. Appreciate everybody hanging out and following along while we watched it together. Will didn't want to come today. I guess he's prepping for his new show on Twitch. He didn't want to come on here, but that's okay. Or maybe he's at the gym, or maybe he's
every day is calf day.
But I'm gonna throw it to Jordan, Trey, and Jordan. You're a good football mind. Like I said, the last few times I brought you on here, you've done a fantastic job kind of giving your analysis and thoughts. After I hear a press conference like that, a few things stuck out to me, but I'm interested to know what you think and your impressions for the day.
Sure. I appreciate you passing it to me. I guess let me start with the biggest thing I heard, which I was a little bit shocked. He said that he would not be calling the defensive play calls. And in some ways, I appreciate that. I think that, let's look at the Nagy situation. He couldn't get his hands off the offensive play calling. And in many ways, I think that was a detriment to him. Sometimes you just get too close to the forest to see the trees. So in some ways, I think Eberflus saying, look, I'm not going to be calling the defense is a good thing. I don't want to make it sound like it's bad. At the same time, that always worries me a little bit because you have been a defensive coordinator your whole life. And now you're about to pass off a thing that got you the job in the first place. And I just get worried about, there's a rumor that he's looking at bringing in Alan Williams as the defensive coordinator. I don't know Alan Williams. I just know what the history says. And Alan Williams as a defensive coordinator has not been very successful. So that brings a question to me is if indeed Alan Williams is the guy, how long until they have a bad defensive game and there becomes strife about is Matt Eberflus going to take over defensive play calling? What's the situation there? Are they going to fire the defensive guy? Why do we have this defensive coach that all of a sudden the defense isn't performing the way it should? I mean, I don't mean to make it sound super negative, but that is one of the concerns I saw there. Outside of that, relatively status quo. You're seeing him say, look, I'm going to a 4-3. He mentioned that he's gone from transitioning from 3-4 defenses to a 4-3 front a few times before. Previously, it was Dallas. When he got to Dallas, they were a 3-4. Moved over to a 4-3 under Monty Kiffin. When they got to Indy, Indy was in a 3-4. Traditionally, when they had Freeney and Mathis coming off the edge at that time, transitioning them to a 4-3. And now they're going to be doing the same here in Chicago. So that's relatively status quo. Outside of that, I'm trying to think of the other big deal, which I mean, really what that means is I thought it was an interesting part that he wasn't willing to commit to Roquan, whether it was a matter of is he going to be the Will or the Mike. For the people in the chat, I just, in case they're wondering, I really strongly, like in my bones, believe Roquan's going to be the Will. Just if you look at the history of what Eberflus has done in Indianapolis with Darius Leonard, even dating back to Sean Lee, his premier linebacker at the time in Dallas, those guys, he just values the Will. That is the star position. That's what Derek Brooks, that's why he was the star in the linebacking core in Tampa Bay. It's why Lance Briggs, everybody loves Brian Urlacher, don't get me wrong. Urlacher's a stud, but Lance Briggs was really kind of the magic man in that defense. And Urlacher was the guy that allowed Lovey to see, holy crap, what if I get a star Mike? But traditionally, the whole idea was Briggs was supposed to be the star, and then they found Urlacher, and the rest was history. So I think it's relatively straightforward there. And then the one thing I'd say about, then I'll kind of close on this, is Poles stressing the importance of offensive line and protecting Justin and keeping him clean and understanding that the best teams in football are always built with a great offensive line and defensive line. Unless you're, the Cincinnati Bengals, and I make a joke there, but even them in some respect, they have an incredibly effort-driven defensive line that gets after it. And, I mean, you saw that yesterday with Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league. And so really, when you look at it, I think that how can you not be hopeful? When you look at even the Cincinnati Bengals and you see what they were able to do on a 1 to 2 year jump. And I know Justin Fields said something important that, look, everybody's journey is a little different. So I'm not telling Bears fans to hop on board and say we're going to the Super Bowl next year. But I don't know how you can't look at the Bengals, their journey, and then also looking at Ryan Poles and seeing hopefully what his philosophy is and seeing a guy like Eberflus who looks to be a true throwback to one of the most successful eras in Bears football with Lovie Smith and not get excited for what's coming forward. I'm hyped. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that stuck out too, is he said he wasn't interested in rebuilding, that they're going to try to compete to be a playoff type team every single year, to take back control of the NFC North. And I think that for a lot of fans, makes Bears fans happy, because I don't think anybody's interested in a rebuild, even if you could argue it's the best course of action for a team that still has a lot of question marks and holes. And then you look at the Bengals, like we just pointed out, a team that also had a lot of holes, and they're in the Super Bowl right now. So, there's a few different ways you can go about becoming a successful franchise. But when you have Justin Fields on a rookie contract, how many years are you going to wait and tear it down and rebuild? How long will that rebuild take? If you're tearing it down this year, yes, they are behind, these other teams that got to prep for the Senior Bowl, which is going on right now. And they're kind of scrambling to put together their coaching staff and scouting department and everything else. Free agency still down the road a little bit, and draft down the road a little bit. So, they'll have an opportunity to make their mark there. Not to say that they're not going to make their mark at the Senior Bowl, but they're scrambling right now to get that going. So it'll be interesting to see how everything's put together. But I'm happy that they're not gonna, completely rebuild. I wasn't expecting them to say that. I know Tom Waddle from ESPN 1000 was a big advocate of saying like this is closer to a rebuild than it is, a reset. But I'm not interested in that when you got a guy like Justin Fields behind center. So that was the one thing that stuck out to me with Ryan Poles. And then, of course, when Mark Potash hit Ryan Poles with the tough question of, you could have done a more expansive search, if you were given the opportunity. And he snapped back. And Potsy is definitely known for giving some of the tougher questions, hitting George McCaskey and Matt Nagy with some of the harder questions over the last few years and just over his whole career. And Ryan Poles, even though he's young and 36 and green behind the ears, he snapped right back at Potsy and said, I was given the opportunity and I chose Matt. And I like the confidence, the courage of his convictions, as David Kaplan would say, and the confidence behind that when he said that. I like the way he carried himself in this presser. At the end of the day, the results are going to be what matters most on the field. You can win press conferences all day. Mark Trestman won press conferences. Matt Nagy won press conferences early on and then lost many press conferences at the end of his 10 years. So none of that really means a heck of a whole lot. The results at the end of the day are what matters. So, it's a wait and see approach. I just texted my buddy, who's, still kind of meh on both, on the head coaching hire, maybe more so than the GM. I just said, hey, we'll see. And he goes, that's about the peak of and my buddy being Jake, our co-host here at Brags in the Stands and co-creator of what we do here. He said, man, we'll see is the peak of my excitement right now. And I don't blame him. I'm optimistic. It's kind of a forced optimism because what else choice do we have? This is who they picked and we have to hope for the best. But none of us know. And, I see a lot of Bears fans pumping their chest. These are our guys now. And that's great. You can do that if that's how you feel, that's how you want to fan it out here for the offseason. I'm going to be optimistic. It's not Nagy anymore. You talk about a guy, like he said, he's going to show the whys instead of try to find the whys. He talked about at one point not recreating the wheel, things that the football staples have been here since 1920. Well, Matt Nagy, when he was here, said he didn't come here to run the I formation. He was trying to reinvent the wheel of what football is. He's saying he's going to get back to the basics. So that I'm encouraged by that, because, football doesn't change its stripes. You win the same way, no matter how you slice it. Yes, having a dynamic quarterback certainly makes it the path of least resistance a lot easier. But at the end of the day, you look at the teams that have made it to the Super Bowl. They won on defense, running the ball with Joe Mixon or Cam Akers, quarterbacks that, Joe Burrow is a great, young talent, but he's not perfect. And Matt Stafford almost throws a pick to lose the game. He's in the Super Bowl now. So it doesn't take a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. Does it make it easier? Maybe, sure. But tell that to Josh Allen, who hasn't been to the Super Bowl yet. So, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But we got a clean slate, as Justin Fields said, that he's happy about. And now we get to see what that clean slate turns into. And there's no reason not to be, positive about it right now. And then if they give you a reason to be negative, so be it. But let's let that play out. Now, Trey, what were your takeaways from what you heard today? Is there any kind of first impressions you got? Is it kind of a wait and see approach for you, or are you feeling really encouraged by what you saw today?
Well, the real reason why I might feel a little encouraged because I really agree with their philosophies. I mean, when you just come in with an idea of um, like you said, when Nagy came in, he came in with this whole, idea. I'm going to change this and do this and all that, and just a lot of blah. But when I hear them speak, they actually sound like they have a plan, and that plan is basically like you said, get back to basics and give maximum effort. You know, um, just focus on strengths. Like, I mean, stuff that we just talk about, and they may sound cliche, but things are cliche for a reason. And when you execute those simple things instead of just like over complicating things and all of that, I mean, it just made a lot of sense. It sounded practical. I mean, now I guess all they have to do is execute. But I mean, when you hear them say those things, and I mean, like I'm not gonna be like, all right, yeah, get all excited because like you just say, you have to see it manifest. But you also heard them say those same things as well. It's
Yeah.
like they can give you like all these, rah rah speech and
The word
about
salad.
right, exactly. The hand gestures and the movement and all that stuff, like a circle. So but
Throw
and
your hands in a circle.
wax on, wax off.
Well, and the other thing that stuck out to me too was another thing when you compare him to Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with
Constantly.
taking his
Yeah.
players that don't fit a system he's trying to run and force that.
Right.
Matt
Constantly.
Eberflus was asked, in regards to the 4-3 and 3-4, and during that answer, he said, I'm going to look at the players we have and what their strengths are and play off of that. Will there be a foundation? Yes, but I'm going to play to the strengths of my players, and that is something Matt Nagy could not do. He didn't do a great job of. So,
Right.
I'm encouraged by that answer. And, I'm certainly encouraged by Ryan Poles.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that say
It's
that.
going to
Oh,
be a
yeah.
lot of flip up saying that. But
Yeah.
no, I really liked how Ryan Poles carried himself in this presser. He's young at 36, but he seems very mature. He has a good understanding of feels like he has a good understanding of what he's trying to accomplish here. I like, him talking about his experience under 3 different GMs and the different things they brought to the table. And, I'm encouraged by Ryan Poles, a young, fresh mind here in the league from a very talented Kansas City Chiefs team that's been to the, AFC Championship 4 years in a row. So he has his blueprint or his fingerprint on that. And, it didn't work out with Matt Nagy coming from Kansas City, but this is a guy in their front office, so it's slightly different as far as what he can bring to the table here with the Bears. And Matt Nagy was trying to run the Kansas City playbook without Kansas City players. Well, Ryan Poles was the one that got the players. So now we've got the guy that can build – and knowing what kind of players he needs, as Jordan has pointed out a few times, I think he's going to have a big emphasis on offensive line. And, we know better than anybody here in Chicago that you need that to have your quarterback be successful. I mean, hell, Rex Grossman got to a Super Bowl, and they had people forget, while they were the number 1 ranked defense the year they made the Super Bowl in 2006, they were also the number 1 ranked offense. And that was in large part to them having a great offensive line, led by Olin Kreutz and Reuben Brown and guys of that nature. So
it seems like, to me, what I got from the press conference, it seems like a lot of, well, I can't say Matt and Ryan because they're both named Matt and Ryan. A lot of Nagy and Pace's weaknesses seem to be Poles and Eberflus' strengths. To me, it's almost like you got the polar opposite with some of the philosophies, just the basic stuff, like, the stuff that seemed like common sense to us. Like why would you try to do this? Like, why would you try to do that? And it seems like these guys are smart, but they keep it simple. Like keep it simple. Like just do the things that work. It's not like they're not trying to overcomplicate things and hopefully not be too cute. Like, just get down to business. That's pretty much what I got from them.
Absolutely. What do you think on that, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I'd kind of like to dive into what I think are some of the positives about Ryan Poles and kind of what you could expect
Hit us with it.
to see with Matt Eberflus. And I got to tell you, you were mentioning a friend that was very meh on both hires, and I'll be frank, Ryan Poles was not even a top 3 candidate for me. And neither was Matt Eberflus. I thought there were better candidates. Now, I don't know the guys. I'm I don't work in the NFL, never have. I just, so everybody understands, I look at the basis of what their history is, where they've been, what they've done. But I got to tell you, as somebody that started off as meh, I'm incredibly hopeful. And I know it's the time of the year where hope is being sold everywhere. Oh my God, look at the Bengals. Your team could be the next Super Bowl team, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, I look at Ryan Poles, and for those that aren't familiar, like you just see some of the moves he's making, and it's incredible. Like I know that people don't know the name Ian Cunningham. Ian Cunningham is the new assistant GM, a position that wasn't even part of Hallis Hall prior to Ryan Poles being there. I was actually a proponent of the idea of having an assistant GM with whoever we hired, getting a guy as that assistant GM that's analytics based. But the thing about Ian Cunningham that's such an incredible hire is he's actually a former offensive lineman. And that doesn't, not that everything comes down to offensive line, but really what I care about is the history of where he's been. And if you look at the Hallis Hall structure now, just the top two guys, let's just focus on Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham. Ian Cunningham is an Ozzie Newsome guy. Ozzie Newsome, longtime GM of, to me, the best ran organization in all of football in the Baltimore Ravens. So he comes with Baltimore Ravens pedigree, and then he comes from Philadelphia Eagles pedigree. And you can say what you want about the Eagles, but Howie Roseman knows how to build a team. They were in the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl less than 5 years ago. You look at that Philadelphia team, and the one thing you can always count on is that they always had a good offensive line. From Jason Peters, who we're all familiar with, to Trey Thomas, to Jason Kelsey, to Lane Johnson, to Jordan Mailata. It literally goes down the list. And so I look at those two franchises that I go, well, looks like we're heading in the right direction. Where's Ryan Poles come from? Well, Ryan Poles comes from Kansas City. And I know that's kind of a negative talk right now because everybody thinks about Nagy, but it's not even just about Kansas City. He's a zombie, if you want to call him that. Ryan Poles has found a way to stick with Kansas City through 3 different regimes. People love Sean Desai for being able to stick with the Bears since, Tressman was here. From Tressman to Fox to Nagy. And you've got the same with Poles. Poles started off with Scott Pioli. Scott Pioli is a New England guy. So he understands that New England philosophy, another incredibly successful franchise. After that, John Dorsey was there. John Dorsey is a Packers and Seahawks kind of guy. Mike Holmgren era, another franchise in the Packers that, as much as we hate them, they are continually successful. After John Dorsey, he's there with Andy Reid and Brett Veach, who have really propelled Kansas City to exceptional heights. I just don't know how. I mean, this is where I'm telling you, I started off as mad, but when you look at the foundation and the history and the basis of where the front office is, I don't know how you couldn't be excited. And then you look at Matt Eberflus, and I'm excited about the idea of him. I mean, let's just talk about some of the facts and the basis of the team. Here's the reality. There's a yin and yang to everything. I'll give you the bad to start. The bad to start is you only have about $40 million, and that's a lot of money. It's around 10th or 11th in cap space, and you only have 5 picks, not 7. So it sounds like it's bad. And the reason it's bad is because they have, I think, 35 players under contract. You got a lot of spots to fill.
Yep.
The good spot is that's a blank canvas for Ryan Poles and for Ian Cunningham to come in, and Matt Eberflus to go, look, I want to build the team this way. And even though you don't have 7 picks and you don't have a ton of cap space, I know that can be negative. I look at it like what you're seeing here, and this is the beautiful part about Matt Eberflus. If you look back to our history with Lovie Smith was a first-time head coach who came into the Bears and had to transform the whole defense into a 4-3 Tampa 2 scheme.
Yep.
And they had to rely on guys like Tank Johnson and Spice Adams and Mike Brown and Nathan Vasher and all these guys to come in and be scrappy young players to play fast and instinctual. And you're going to see a team, I believe, that has an energetic teacher at coach who's saying, look, we don't have all the money and we don't have all the picks. But what we do have is the availability to hire young guys that I can coach up to play fast and instinctual in a really simplistic scheme. And I know simple is not always beautiful and pretty, but the reality is the Fangio scheme, as great as it is, requires incredibly intellectual players. You're rotating safeties every time to confuse the quarterback. It's why you see busted zone coverages and why you saw a lot of missed coverage touchdowns. And you get back to the bare basics with Eberflus, and you ask young guys who are inexperienced to just play fast and trust their instincts. And guess what? Those young guys, they don't cost a lot of money.
Right.
You have a guy like Ryan Poles that understands, hey, we just need to build those trenches like they did in Philadelphia, for example. And you get, I mean, I'll talk about another scenario real quick with the Bears. They're sitting at number 39 in the draft. And I know that that's a decent spot. You're going to have some first rounders that fall right into that spot. That's great for them. I mean, I think the way that you look at it and you go, well, 5 picks just isn't enough. We need receiver, we need DB, we need safety, we need tight end, we need offensive line, etc. We need a center. But you look at it at 39, and seriously, just go look at other drafts, whether it was the Andy Dalton, Callum Kaepernick draft, or any of the others. There's always, and I mean always, teams that look to get up into the top of the second round to get a quarterback that they believe they can get who's just slipped out of the first. And I think that's a great opportunity for Ryan Poles to go, yeah, you want 39? Sure. I want 56, 85, and 140. And you can take 39, and now all of a sudden we had 5 picks, now we have 7.
Yep.
So it's a situation where I think that there's a ton of reason for hope. You have a guy that you're looking at a young defense, a lot of young players, but if it's developed right, and I know there's a lot of concern about Luke Getsy in the offense, and Greg, I know you saw me kind of getting into it with the Irish Bears show on Twitter, but I'm not incredibly high on the Getsy hire. But the reality is, the beautiful part about that is he's unknown. I mean, as bad as Matt Nagy was, the guy was the coach of the year in 2018. And I know we can point to Vic Fangio and everything, but the reality is the reason that offense worked is because nobody knew what to expect and nobody knew what was coming.
Absolutely. And
that's what
then
Luke Getsy
Nagy's
did.
problem was not being able to adjust off of that. And
Yeah.
maybe, a Getsy, can do that. And we'll see. It's a long ways away. And at this point, everyone's kind of just playing the guessing game. And, you can either go one way about it or go the other way as far as being negative or positive.
I'm your neighborhood hope dealer.
There you go. Hey, that's we love hope. Hey, we've been doing nothing but bitching about the Chicago Bears on this show for the last 2 years. So I'm all for getting back on the positive train until there's a reason not to be. And early on in a tenure or the start of a journey, as Justin Fields was talking about the journey. Everybody's journey is different. The early stages are supposed to be hopeful. And you can choose to be negative about it because you won't be fooled again. But I totally understand that, especially for the older Bears fans that have been through this a million times. But we shall see. And there's nothing wrong with keeping an optimistic approach about everything going on right now. So, we've been running about almost 2.5 hours here, guys. Will never came. What were your thoughts on that, Trey? I mean, I really was hoping Will would,
joyful Lord. I'm
Sorry, Jordan, if you're blocked here, but our guy Will, is. I mean, if you wanted to talk, Jordan, you could almost be the voice of Will.
I'll tell you what, I will be the voice of Will for his participation trophy and answer a couple questions. One was, who's rumored to be the DC from Angelo? Angelo, the rumored DC is supposed to be Alan Williams, is the current leader in the clubhouse. Another option I think you could see is Rod Marinelli, who, assuming that
Will is so insightful, Trey.
Right, yeah. Tell us more, Will.
Assuming the Las Vegas Raiders actually clean house and hire Josh McDaniels, which I think you're going to see, Rod Marinelli becomes available. So Alan Williams or Rod Marinelli look like some possible DC candidates. And then Taco Grease asked, who would I like at head coach and GM? And admittedly, I had guys like Brian Flores and even D'Amico Ryans ahead of a guy like Matt Eberflus, but I understand the reason for it, and I've warmed up to the idea. And with GM, I really like, this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I really like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the GM of the Minnesota Vikings. So I think they hired well.
Very insightful, Will. Normally you're all over the place. You're erratic, and crazy with all your thoughts, but that time you were very concise and, educated opinion. I like that. Will's really turning over a new leaf here, Trey. This is It's a shocker.
I'm speechless.
Yeah, and you're right. You've nailed the pronunciation of this a few times for the Vikings' new GM. What was his name again? There, Jordan.
His name is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah.
Okay, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and the thing that I was also catching a lot of flack for is look at the pen. There's a few things that I was breaking down. I mean, first, the pen, because when you see Matt Eberflus, first they did the Ryan Poles hiring and they gave him the Bic special from your middle school days, and I was like, come on guys, like you ain't got a nice Mont Blanc pen or whatever you want to say. And then I think they heard our cries on Twitter, and then they give them the Bears Walmart special pen, which at least says Bears on it. But then in both pictures, they tried to get the helmet in the photo and they failed. And the Vikings over here making us look bad.
Turn the camera side.
Yeah, they get the helmet in, they get the football in. They got the nice pen, and I'm just like, what are we doing over here? But these are the little things. See, you give all that great analysis, Jordan, and this is what I'm analyzing are the little details in the picture. But, I like that this guy, talked about his training camp days. I'm sure there was once upon a time where a younger, skinnier Greg Braggs was running around training camp, asking for autographs and pictures, and I'm sure I ran into a young Ryan Poles back in the day. So, he has a little idea of what Bears fandom is all about, because even back then, Bears fandom at training camp, at Bourbonnais was crazy. You'd go then to those days were the Jay Cutler days, and it was, or the Lovie Smith, Brian Urlacher, Devin Hester days, and Bears fans were crazy when they went there back then, and they'd load the place. So he knows all about what he's getting into here. We got some pen thoughts here. We got Angelo is saying, did Matt have a mechanical pencil with an eraser? So I don't know if that's what it was. But I was really keeping an eye today on how they'd be dressed. I was a little disappointed in the media. They did ask him about going to the airport, but no one asked him about his attire catching so much heat. I was waiting for a snarky George McCaskey response to that. Yeah. I mean, these are
I gotta tell you, I know that we differ on this. I do not hate the move whatsoever. Like it says a lot that Ryan Poles. I mean, we tuned in like a couple seconds late, but we entered the conference with Ryan Poles directly talking to George, looking at him, saying like, with a joy in his smile and his smirk about from the moment you picked me up at baggage claim.
And I liked that he picked him up. I just thought he looked goofy dressed the way he did. Like
midnight.
What's that?
It was midnight. What do you want from him?
I know. Hey, and I get it. Like I said, if they were a winning franchise, we'd be like, look at George. He's dressed just like me. He's a guy's guy. He's a true Bears fan that runs this successful organization. I love him. I know it's midnight, but I'm just saying you're the boss. You're getting ready to pick up your guy. You want to do it personally, great, but you walk up with a little bit of I don't know. Everything's just so relaxed. He's trying to make Ryan comfortable. But Ryan Poles is honored to be hired as the new GM of the Chicago Bears. He's a young 36-year-old. And, if I'm the boss, I'm going to walk up and, I'm going to come up and show him that olive branch and I'm going to pick you up. But I'm going to make sure I dress, with a little more, sense of power. I don't know how to explain it. Not to intimidate, but
here's the question. Does George strike you as a guy who is not aloof?
George wants to keep everything family.
He doesn't think he's a big deal. He goes to the airport going like, I'm just average Joe in my Bears gear.
Yeah.
Like I'm parked on the White Sox level.
And, yeah, and exactly. He made a point to say I gave $3 to the city. That was a wink at Lori Lightfoot in the city with this whole stadium fiasco. Hey, I gave you $3 to the city. So No, and I'm mostly just tongue in cheek about it. I'm just telling you what I would have done and my observation on why I felt it looked like. Now, going there was the home run, no doubt about it. But like, of course, Ryan Poles is going to be blown away by that. Like, he's a 36-year-old. He's gonna take this job, faster than his head can spin. I know he interviewed with the Panthers, and they didn't want him or he didn't want to go there. Whatever.
Yeah, they took Scott Fitter last year.
Right. So, hey, that's a great move all the way around. I was just giving him a little shit on what he was wearing. He looked kind of like the drunks that are walking through South Lot, and I just felt like hey, you're the boss. You're picking up your new employee. Maybe dress for the occasion. But George always wants everybody to be friends. So like you're talking about, how much that meant to Ryan Poles, and he looked over at him. And yeah, you got to have a good working relationship, but there should be a dynamic of I'm your boss and you're, and that's never really been there with the Bears. Once you're in the circle, you're in the circle. And they won't, it gets to a point where George McCaskey is saying, well, I asked Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus if they want their contracts to be public, and I left it up to them and they said no. Well, you're the boss, What do you want it to be is it public to the media? Why is it up to your employees? My boss doesn't ask me what my, what my opinion is on things. He's the boss. He makes that decision. So I think that George gets to a point sometimes where he wants everyone to feel like they're in the circle. They're in the family now. But then if it's not successful, it deteriorates because now it's, the yes men, the good old boy club, because they're all friends and there's no true boss or the feeling of that checking them. You know what I'm saying? Like when George was talking with Matt about Matt's asking him, what do you think about me not starting Justin Fields? And George was like, well, I kind of feel uncomfortable that you even asked me that. Well, that's the culture you've created where it's this family thing where it doesn't feel like boss employee is my only point. But I also understand that I'm being a jackass and I'm taking a little thing and extrapolating it into a larger point. But that's kind of where I go with it in regards to that.
Well, let me ask you quickly, because and for Trey, if you don't know, I'm a Southern California native. I live in Orange County, California. I am interested in hearing from Chicago guys, because we're talking about the $3 to the city and Mayor Lightfoot. I personally, as a guy who's traveled to Soldier Field, love where it is. It's central to downtown. I can fly into O'Hare, Midway, Uber over there, stay at a Congress Hotel, something like that, see Grant Park, do it all, go to the aquarium, see Soldier Field. As a guy who lives in Chicago, would you prefer Soldier Field to be the venue, or are you happy about the Arlington Heights potential move?
Well, I'm happy about the Arlington Heights move because, the location is probably the only good thing about Soldier Field to me. It's just a pain getting in and out. Like once you're there, it's great. Even the view of the lakefront is nice. The downtown skyline is nice, but when you're down there and you're there for the football game, you're there for the camaraderie, the tailgating, and all that going on. And when I've been to AT&T Stadium and Lucas Oil Field, and the experience is just so much better there. And just like getting in and out of the stadium, that's probably the biggest issues. Like the tailgating and getting in and out. It's so inconvenient that the way it's set up at AT&T Stadium is amazing. It's just all around. Like you can walk all around, and it's just you can meet so many people. The activities, like even going into the stadium, like they have all these activities you can do, and like stuff like you can do before you even get inside. I just think
when Trey and I went to the game earlier this year, we probably got 4 miles of walking in, just to get from our parking spot to the tailgate lot to our seats and back. I'm trying to rush home. We're at the the game on Halloween, so I'm trying to, see the end of this pitiful game against the Niners that they should have won and didn't even force a punt. And of course, the game's got to come down to the last few minutes because I wanted to bolt out of there so I could get home to trick or treat with my daughter. And when the game's over, we have to make the pillage all the way back to the McCormick garages to park, and it takes just the walk alone takes 45 minutes. And
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
through anywhere. I mean, and if you're parked close on the Waldron deck, just getting out of that lot because of the traffic jam is
Right.
chaos. Not to say there wouldn't be traffic at any other lot at Arlington Heights, but you'd hope that there'd be more avenues out that would help, scale that back as far as time consuming wise. But I love Soldier Field. Soldier Field is 35 minutes from my house when I leave in the morning. If there's
You
no
see how
traffic.
close I am to it.
Yeah, Trey's 5 minutes from the stadium.
Really?
I love
Wow.
and I love Soldier Field. I know every nook and cranny of that whole stadium. I know where I'm going. I know all the little secret spots that other fans may not know about to get close to the players and different fans. I know where all my friends that have season tickets, I know where every one of their seats are. I go around and do my mayor routine and shaking hands and talking to people. I love it there. The amenities as far as going to the concession stands or the bathroom during the game is pretty much not an option, because if you try to go to the bathroom during the game, you're bound to miss an entire quarter trying to get there and get back to your seat. That's a big that's a big thing for me. I don't like that aspect of it. And to me, having gone to the new Dallas Stadium, having gone to the Colt Stadium, as Trey mentioned, having gone to London and seeing the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which was state of the art, just an amazing venue. I've seen some of the top venues, across the country and across the world. And the first thing I said walking into Tottenham was, we need one of these. Bears fans deserve one of these. Bears media deserves one of these. Bears players deserve one of these. And then you think about the condition of the field in regards to the players. We deserve better for our Chicago Bears all across the board. And would I prefer to rip down Soldier Field and get some more space for and leave it where it is? Sure, but that's not exactly feasible when you got the lake right next to you. Then you got you got Lakeshore Drive on the other side of you.
Right.
It's just it's a tight spot to put a stadium. And so, you see the opportunity that Arlington Heights brings you with, having a campus, and you could have a sports book and hotels and restaurants and all sorts of things interactive for kids. There's just so much of an opportunity. And I know my buddy and also a co-host of this show, Johnny B, who's a diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan, licking his wounds after losing yesterday to the Bengals, and he was at the game with his wife. I see him do videos and pictures of their tailgate at Kansas City. Well, the parking lot surrounds the whole stadium.
Right. And I went there too. I went to Arrowhead. It was funny. The game I went, the Bears came back and won in the fourth quarter
with Jay Cutler, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was at that game.
Brandon
But
Marshall.
yeah, like you said, the parking lot surrounds the whole stadium, and so I mean, like when we're at the South Lot, that's it, and
Right.
it's like you imagine how
the
far
other
you
side
have
of the
to go.
stadium's a fucking museum.
Yeah, and it's like that's all you got, and like when you're like
They call it South Lot, but it's literally our only lot.
right? Like there's no North Lot, there's no East Lot, and there's no West Lot.
Right.
So I mean, like when I went to the game in Detroit, it is a long walk to the stadium, like from where we tailgated, but the stadium itself was amazing. It was pretty good. I mean, it's just Detroit. I mean, it's like
I ask because I got to give you a little insight about me. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to stadiums. Like I actually have a goal that I want to go and see every stadium in the NFL. And Greg, were you at Vegas? Did you get to see Allegiant?
No, I was invited, but I had just gone to a bachelor party in Vegas, and Vegas I could take in small doses. That town was a little too much for me.
No, I only asked because I was at the Week 1 LA game at SoFi, and then
Okay.
was at Allegiant, and then I also visited Nissan Stadium for the Tennessee preseason game.
I've been there a couple years ago during the COVID year. That was the only game I got to see that year was at Nashville. I
Yeah.
like that stadium.
Yeah, no, Nissan's cool. I tell you this because I have not seen Tottenham. I haven't seen any of the others, but SoFi is unfrickin' believable. It's unreal.
Right.
And so is Allegiant. Allegiant's beautiful
And
as
the
well.
Bears deserve something like that. And the thing about it is that worries me, and this is where I joke about the pen, with the Vikings. But like in a nutshell, this is what I hope doesn't happen. The Vikings, they have a beautiful stadium, right? So, and they give their new GM a nice pen to go along with his nice stadium. The Bears, when they make their stadium, it better not be the pen like in the same kind of context of what the pen they gave Ryan Poles. Like it's like a microcosm of what the Bears like thought process is. Like, no, none of this shit means anything. I just want to win a Super Bowl. But when they build this new stadium, if it's not as good as the Viking Stadium, or if it's not as good as SoFi, or if it's not as good as Allegiant, and people are like, well, all that matters is winning on the field. No, I want the fucking best.
Yeah,
So don't give my GM a freaking Bic pen to sign his contract of his life with. Give him a nice freaking pen. And make sure when you put the team on the field, give them a nice freaking stadium. And when they win the Super Bowl, I can be happy. I'm going to be happy about them winning the Super Bowl if they played in mud in the backyard. But I would prefer them to play it if they're going to build a nice a stadium, that it be just as nice as some of the stadiums they've built here, in the last few years.
Yeah, I've been to AT&T twice already, and then they're playing there this year, and I'm going again.
I'm thinking about going to that game just because I want to see Jerry World.
Yeah, definitely.
I got family down there in Fort Worth, so it kind of gives me a reason to kill two
I
birds
got
with
family.
one stone.
Yeah, that's why it's easy for me to go the past 2 times.
We went to Six Flags, that's in Texas, or in Dallas. That's right next to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. It's like just a mile away, a couple miles away.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been to like Six Flags Great America, in Gurnee, Illinois. I used to go there every year as a kid, and I loved it. And I hadn't been to Six Flags in years. And the day before the game, we went to the Six Flags over by Dallas, and we got in there right away. And it's not like Gurnee where all these people show up and the lines are crazy right when you get in. When we got there, we were able to go to the best ride, the ride that goes the tallest, right away. And I hadn't been on a roller coaster in years, and I had kind of forgot what it was like. And we get up all the way to the top, and I was like, holy shit. Like this I don't remember it being this terrifying. And it's like click, 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 click. Then when we got to the very top, you could see Jerry World, which looked like the Truman Show building, like just a giant pimple on the earth. And then we took the dive down. It was like, and it was cool to do that. There was fun.
Their amusement parks are they got more. They're not going to be crowded like it is here, because we only got a few months to go. Here,
right. That's true. That's true too. We only have the summer to go, and they have all year. Yeah, they had a few good rides. They had a Tony Hawk ride, which was kind of sweet, and then Batman versus Mr. Freeze ride, which was pretty badass. But that was my experience when we went down there. And then the Bears beat the Cowboys, and that was their first year with the new stadium. And Devin Hester had a touchdown in the end zone. Hester being my favorite Chicago Bear of all time. Hopefully he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. If he does, I'll be going live here and crying and ranting and raving about how he's the GOAT. Well, maybe we'll bring Yurko on, and I'll just laugh at his ass for doubting him for all these years. But
you're at the game where the Bears had like 5 interceptions on Romo. That was the game.
If it was the first year, and Dez Bryant had a kickoff return for a touchdown, which was the first ever touchdown in that new stadium for the Cowboys.
I don't know if I remember that part. I remember, like Lance Briggs almost had a pick six.
I'm pretty sure that was the same game.
It was the same game? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man. Man,
I was there.
I was drunk too.
I was drunk too. I was drinking this frozen drink, and it came in like a big flamingo, thing. And this cowboy fan was like, "You're drinking a girl's drink." I was like, "Oh, it's tasting good."
Right.
Along with this
And
dub
you're
we're about
like-
to get.
Right, you're like num 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 num.
Well, and the thing about that stadium was, obviously the big video board stands out. But then, like, at one point, like, they have like these go-go dancers appearing,
Right,
and you're like, "What the?" They have like there's a art museum in there.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
crazy.
There's a car dealership in there. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
I liked it. I mean, it's obviously it was
DJs and stuff.
It was an impressive place, but like didn't feel like football either. So.
I mean, I was so excited for the Bears winning that game and the turnovers. So I had a great experience.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool place to go. I'm definitely consider going back this year for the Bears Cowboys coming up.
They're
But
gonna try to go to Atlanta again too.
yeah, that'd be tight. I've never been to Atlanta. They have a cool stadium, a cool roof with their bird's nest ceiling roof. So
the best part is listening to Samuel Jackson talk, like, because he's like, like the hype video person and stuff.
Okay.
So he's like, "Rise up, Atlanta!" He's
Rise up, motherfuckers!
Right. He's just waiting for him to curse.
Well, and then the other thing too was like when they first
motherfuckers,
opened
do you
it,
play it?
like
Right.
they had a Chick-fil-A there, but Chick-fil-A isn't open on Sundays.
Right.
So like they have a Chick-fil-A in the stadium, but it's not open when the game's
Right.
going on. So what the
Yeah.
fuck sense does that make?
I guess, for the other events, because it's not the only thing they have going on. I think college football is a big thing there too. So I guess it's all the other events. Yeah, go ahead.
Just so
George.
it's here, Greg. I want you to see that even me, a non-GM, has a nice fountain
And like
pen.
I said, I know it's silly. I admit it's silly, but it's just a microcosm of this organization.
but
And
like
so
this,
is
like-
is George wearing his Braggs attire to go pick up his next GM of his organization. It's silly, but it's also kind of embodies what the Bears are, and we're not successful. So like anybody that like oh my God, you dare question anything the Bears do. Well, I'm sorry, it's just a microcosm. Like we always go cheap, it feels like in the perception of this mom and pop shop organization. So if you don't have a problem with the pen, that's fine, but don't come bitching when they shortchange you on the stadium too, because that's what this team has always been. And I guess we just don't deserve it, and we just be happy with our Bears, and one day we might win one and just be happy with that. No, I want the best for my team. I want the best of the best. LA's got this state-of-the-art stadium, and they've got maybe the greatest halftime show of a Super Bowl ever coming up. That's what I want for my Chicago Bears. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they got so lucky this year. So they hosted 3 playoff games and the Super Bowl. That's crazy.
We got Tony the Pod Boss in. Appreciate you jumping in. If you want to go back and watch some of the reaction stuff, Jordan really brought it. When the press conferences were over, as far as his thoughts and analysis, he's done a great job here. Jordan T. Silvera. Make sure you search his handle on Twitter and follow him there. I appreciate anybody, following me along here this last year. I'll be giving away training camp tickets again coming up this year, and hopefully we see a better product on the field. And, hey, this is what we do here at Braggs in the Stands, just having fun with it. I'm messing around, I'm joking, obviously there's some truth to the sentiment about the pens and the I'm not worried about that shit. I'm worried about what they do on the field too, but I just want what's best, period. End of discussion. I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a mouse hill in regards to a little joke when it comes to the pens and the suits. I don't give a rat's ass. When they build the stadium though, it better be fucking nice. I mean, they're talking about how they build foundations, and George was talking about how he builds a house in the firing press conference, and I get worried as a bricklayer when I can tell someone that has no idea what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to building things. I get worried. So Molehill, I'm sorry, mountain out of
Right,
a molehill.
Yeah, I'm like, what is
Not
a mouse hill?
not a mouse hill.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off. I'm like, what the hell is a mouse hill?
You didn't want to cut me off, Trey. I cut you off every 38 seconds. I think you can owe me one at least.
Yeah, I'm like, mouse hill.
Well, you know,
I'm like, maybe it's something I don't know. I'm like, okay.
I'm like Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man, where she gets all her sayings wrong. You know. Oh shit. So Jordan, any final thoughts before we start to wrap this baby up? We're approaching the 3-hour mark. I'm sure Trey's got things to do. He's got a family. I've got things I got to do, like eat lunch. So I also have a family, but I'm more interested in eating lunch. But Jordan, any final thoughts you have with, you know, reactions or impressions on the day and just overall thoughts?
Sure. I'll be quick. I know, like you said, we're getting to 3 hours here. Last thing I don't think I got to talk about is just I think it's really important that you saw Justin Fields getting a platform to speak even after Poles, Eberflus, and McCaskey. And so, you know, if you're not paying attention to that, I mean, I think that tells you all that you need to know about what they think about Justin, about his commitment, about his leadership. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have to speak to the media on, you know, press conference Monday with the new head coach and GM, but the fact that he's in the building, who's obviously, I mean, here's the thing we talk about, I know it's not a popular subject, but tampering and the ability for coaches to talk and give playbooks out, things like that. But the one beautiful thing is when you're in the building, you can do all that. I just happened to be in the building and, you know, Eberflus was here and he walked in the weight room and, you know, I just maybe got to talk a little bit of scheme. And so I think that the fact that Justin's there, you know, like one of the things that was talked about is he hadn't met the new offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, yet. And I'm like, well, as long as he's hanging around in the building, I assure you they'll be meeting here in the next day or two, because it's not like Luke Getsy just signed a contract and is still hanging out in Green Bay. He'll be in Chicago. He'll be in the building. So I really think that the fact that you saw Fields come on to the press conference, give a few questions and answers and things of that sort, speaks highly for what Ryan Poles, the GM, thinks of Justin Fields and the fact that he's in the building ready to get to work. You know, I think that's kind of my lasting point is that if you're a Bears fan, the best thing you can hold on to right now is hope. And I don't think it's false hope. I think that there's legitimate promise and possibilities for success and growth this year, just by the nature of everything that we kind of outlined earlier. So the last thing I'll say is, as always, Greg, I really appreciate you having me on. This has always been a blast, and kind of getting to meet and hang out with Trey here has been awesome. And I love hanging out with you guys. So thank you.
Well, you've done a fantastic job here as I'm trying to get the camera switched, but
you're good.
My goddamn
Jordan, full screen. All right.
My goddamn
1080p.
computer is lagging after 3 hours of show. But no, Jordan, you're always welcome here. You've done a fantastic job, you know, bringing the analysis. Certainly can bring a lot more to the table in that regard than I can. So, you know, I appreciate what you bring to the table here at Brags in the Stands. It's been nice getting to know you once again. And, you know, we'll see. Maybe we'll do some shows around free agency or draft. And obviously, I think we've built a good rapport here and a good chemistry as far as, you know, Chicago Bears coverage and conversation that you'll be one of the first people that I'm contacting when we do those kind of shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
of course.
I totally agree with the Justin Fields take, because that's what I felt too. I'm like, when he popped out, I'm like, oh my God, it's so good to know that he's there. Like, so just in the building, just feel like it's something serious happening. You know,
Yep.
like they mean business. And
1,000%.
right.
So Jordan, we're going to cut you loose here.
Sounds good.
Then we'll start to wrap this baby up. But thanks again for everything you bring. Again, for those of you watching, make sure you follow Jordan on Twitter at Jordan T. Silvera. It was just shared when we had him solo on the screen. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He does a great job with his analysis. He does Twitter Spaces where he goes a little bit more in depth in his conversations with some of the different things regarding the Chicago Bears. So make sure you follow him and keep the conversation rolling. Thanks again, Jordan, and we'll catch up with you here real soon.
Craig, Trey, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Bear down.
You too. Bear down. That is Jordan Silvera. Go follow him on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. He does a great job. And then there were two, me and Trey, back at it reunited, and
And
it
it
feels
feels
so
so
good.
good.
Yeah, the last time we were on, we were singing karaoke. Will was calling in 15 times, but now he's mad at me because I had to give him the axe on 12. He's driving me crazy, Trey. He's driving me crazy.
Yeah, it's like, Will, just
Harassment every day. I don't have to put up with the harassment.
I just want to take Will and just shake him, like, calm down, relax.
Yeah.
Relax.
He was so sweet when we first met him, and just so supportive and nice. And now it's like he's always so visceral and angry and everyone's wrong. And it's like, man, we got to get the Will back that, was just nice at the beginning. And it's like he's gotten to know us so well. He's gotten to know me. I guess that's the problem. He got to know me, and now he's mad at me every day. Beck and John, in the chat says he wants me to do him one favor before the show's over. Please try to say Tottenham. So yeah, there's no A. Pretend it's not there. Tottenham. I'm sorry.
Tottenham?
Is this Berlissimo busting my balls here? Tottenham. See, he says at the end. Just give it a shot. Tottenham. Okay, listen. Tottenham. We Americanize things here on Brags in the Stands. And I went to that old Tottenham Stadium. But at Tottenham, okay? He said it's perfect here in the chat, so I'm glad I was able to get that done. The final request. Man, I'll tell you what, this goddamn lag on this, I'm like clicking and it should be seamless, but it's taking a second to pull up. But thank you. It was perfect. And I know do I get a participation trophy for it, Will?
It takes a second to pull up. That's what she said.
Yeah, it does. It does. It takes a second to pull
See
in.
my Dundee?
Dundies. So, that's about it. Trey, what are your thoughts too? One thing I didn't get a chance to ask you, and curious to hear your thoughts. And I saw Ross Reed is a person I follow. He follows me on Twitter. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He said, don't be afraid to call Ryan Poles the first ever black GM of the Chicago Bears, because that's who he is and that's what he represents. And I'm curious to know your thoughts as far as, for the longest time, the Bears there was a lot of people that would say like, oh, the Bears don't want to hire a black head, a black GM, even though Lovey was the black head coach, one of the first black head coaches, if not the first. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know the Bears history as well as Jack Silverstein or whatever. And then most importantly, a black quarterback. We didn't have one ever, and people were like, oh, they don't want to sign Colin Kaepernick because he's black, and they've only had white quarterbacks. And then they get Justin Fields, and it felt like they break that barrier down. And now Ryan Poles becomes the first ever black GM of the Chicago Bears. Does that give you a sense of pride in any way? That he represents, what you're all about, or is that something that's overblown as far as a narrative? In regards, I just was curious about your thoughts.
You do want to state it because the reason why it's important is because you're just showing that the diversity. But one thing, I don't know if it's because I'm just too optimistic about people and stuff in general. Optimistic about the world.
You do see the good in people, that's for sure.
I never really felt like the Bears organization was racist or didn't want to hire our black, staff or get black players. I never felt that way to even the slightest about the Bears. I just didn't feel that way. And it's like I felt like they didn't get Kaepernick because it was too big of a story. It was too polarizing of a figure.
I agree.
So that's why I don't think they got
no different than maybe like why Tim Tebow isn't in the league anymore.
Right, yeah.
Because
it's the story.
Right.
Gonna be about
He
him.
sucks too, don't get me wrong. But he was also a giant distraction,
Right. I don't think it was right. I just think that's why. It wasn't because he's black. It was because of how big. What football organization wants to bring that into it just make the whole. You're trying to build a team and win a championship, and here you bring this huge story, and it sucks. But I mean, like that's the reason why Kaepernick didn't get another job. It's like because like one the whole blackball thing. I mean, I think it was basically because they didn't want to bring in that huge story, have to talk about it every day. Every day, we're trying to focus on getting better as a team. Who
Right.
want? Yeah, I mean, but it did suck for him, and because you didn't deserve that. But as far as like when I see the Bears put forth the effort to give so many diverse people, like men, women of all backgrounds. It's like give them the opportunity to um, state their case, because that's what's wrong with the NFL. And I'm going to say something that a lot of people probably don't know. I mean, the reason why is like a lot of these teams they hire who they know, who they grew up with, who's been around them their whole lives, and most likely those people might look like them, and it doesn't make it right, but it's like people are gonna bring in what's familiar to them, and like if that person happened to be black, they would most likely bring. It's not like people weren't being hired because of their background. It's like just give this person the opportunity. They might like show you that they deserve the job, and and that's the thing. Like it was like, okay, I'm coming in. I already know who I want. I'm not even going to interview such and such and so and so. Cause like Mike Tomlin's black, the head coach. How many people you think are black on his staff?
Right.
Right, he hired who he knew.
Right.
It because that's just to show you. It's not about like, okay, I'm a black head coach. I'm gonna. It's not about, okay, we need to get black people. It's like the idea is to show them, like give them the opportunity to show you that they deserve to be there, and that's the whole thing. And that's with any job, any organization. It's like give them the opportunity to interview, uh, show you that they deserve to be there, and show you that they're worth having this position, and like see what kind of chemistry you have off of that. So, but yeah, I'm very happy for Poles. I mean, especially for him to be so young,
Right.
and
Young
young,
36-year-old
right, 36-year-old,
minority
like,
candidate. You don't see that too much.
right,
And George certainly was, like I said, I think he hired him off merit and what he's earned. But
yeah,
he did make sure, in his search committee, they brought up, um, Soup Campbell and
right.
the young lady. I'm missing her
Yeah,
name. That
I
was a
think I want to say something with a T. I just can't remember right
Yeah, she
now.
was
Yeah,
part of the search
yeah.
committee, and George talked about what they brought to the table.
Tanisha
Tanisha
Well,
Wade,
yeah,
Tanisha Wade. Thank you, Beck and John,
right.
bringing it here in the chat. Yeah, and I do think that's important because, like you said, it's about opportunity. At the end of the day, it's not about it's just giving everyone a fair shake.
Right,
And
exactly.
I can only speak on it on the periphery. I'm on the outside looking in to that kind of battle that minority candidates have to go through, and I certainly wanted to get your thoughts on that. I meant to
Yeah.
ask you about it earlier. Didn't want to put you on the spot, Trey, but at the
Oh
same
no,
time,
I mean
I
I could
felt
talk
like
about that all day because it's one thing I've experienced it in life. I mean that's something I've been through. Like my name is Montre. You think how many people you think threw away my resume because they just because of my name? It's like they see the name and be like, oh boy, like you know, and I was in a field with a computer, like graphic design and stuff. And when you only have a team with 3 or 4 people, and you got to be comfortable. And here I am, 6'1", the big black guy. Like how many times do you think I've like they saw me, but like, okay, yeah, he's smart, but I don't know. It's like, do we just for them feeling comfortable because they're not used to being around somebody like that before they could
sure,
even really get a chance to know who I was or anything like that. And I mean, it sucks, but a lot of like all the jobs I had, are because I have to know somebody to get in to that. So it's like even the jobs I'm happy that I got, I have to know somebody. It sucks like sometimes when people just give you an opportunity to prove yourself and say, all right, we're gonna just like consciously, give this guy a realistic chance. I mean, people, and that's like it's not just football; it's life, and and all that. But like I guess like once people do start to get to know me, I think I'm a good person. So
You're all
yeah,
right.
yeah,
You're all
yeah, yeah
right. No.
right,
Yeah, you're a pretty good guy, Trey. Absolutely. I'm
right,
honored
yeah,
to be your friend. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you
right,
over the last year, more than a year, it feels like now. And
yeah.
you've always been so good to me and helpful in what I'm trying to do. And that, I just think we have a good friendship here, and it's been a lot of fun. And I want to continue doing this and doing live shows and different things and having fun and Kaplan has always said lift as you climb. And
Right.
I don't know where the hell I'm trying to climb to, but I know I'm having fun doing it. And you're certainly somebody I want to try to lift up with me. And
If the
and I know
Bears are
you're
smart, they would put you on their media.
shit. They ain't putting my
Man.
crazy, especially after all the comments I've been having lately on Twitter.
Just
Like,
gotta
this
give you a clean
motherfucker.
scrub over you. I mean, like if they say I had like a media content director or something,
They're hiring one, the head of social
really?
media, and people were tagging me and they were like,
Oh,
Greg, get on this. I'm like, you gotta have gone to school and have all these silly credentials. It's not good enough to
no,
just be a Bears fan
no,
that's quick with the Android. You gotta
no,
have editing skills and all these other skills. But I
man.
feel like their social media leaves a
It's,
lot to be desired. And I think it would help them a
it
lot
was
if they
crazy.
had.
It is a little bit better than it was the year
It is
before.
getting better. The
The
guy
year
that's
before
been
was
doing their
horrible.
postseason videos for like Montgomery and Fields, I liked.
Yeah,
When they had Cam Good, he was the best of the best, and now he's on the big stage doing
yeah,
stuff for ESPN and
yeah.
stuff like that. But
They should have kept him in the
they
building.
absolutely should have kept him, but maybe they couldn't afford him at the end of the day. But
Would have been worth it.
I do feel like they could use a fan. I'm not saying me. There's other people that are just as big of fans as me, probably more clever fans than I am, that might do a better job. But I do feel like they don't have enough fan representation in their social media department because it shows in their content a lot of times because they tend to be tone deaf
Yeah.
with some of the things they put out there, and it just speaks to people that might be qualified for those positions, but not necessarily in tune and have a true, finger to the Bears heartbeat, the Bears fan heartbeat.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the
You
social media appeal should be all
like
about.
for me, in all seriousness, I think you'll be that perfect guy to have like talking to players throughout training camp. Like you don't even like somebody else holding the camera while you just
I'd be like Chris Farley on SNL, like, do you remember that one time, Justin, that you ran all the way around the Niners and then you scored the touchdown? That was awesome. That would be me. No, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I mean,
yeah, right.
I
You're
asked them,
excited for it.
and they'd laugh.
Here we are, Bears training camp,
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
No, I do not. John Centino's asking, do I think I'll be able to film it? No, that is a social media rule that I think the social media
Braggs rule.
department put the Braggs rule in effect because I was stealing some of their thunder on the Twitter waves with my Android, taking a break from my bricklaying lunch. And I think I don't think it's a coaches in front office rule. So I'll be shocked if we show up to training camp. They're like, yeah, you can start filming again. If they do, you'll get the best coverage here at Braggs in the Stands, as far as training camp coverage goes. But if the rules still apply, I'm going to abide by them, even though there was plenty of people going there and did not. And so basically Greg's the only one that that isn't allowed to put video up because they'll like run me down at training camp if I do. So it is what it is. I don't care. I can do plenty of other things. I don't have to just do training camp video to get by with content. So I just have fun and do what I can. And if they throw me a curveball, I try to hit it. That's it, you know. But yes, Taco Grace, me and Trey, we had a moment. We always have a moment. I always get lovey and sentimental with Trey because I love Trey a lot. He's a really good guy. He deserves everything. He deserves a lot more than I do. Trey is 10 times more talented than I ever will be. 10 times nicer of a guy than I'll ever be. So if we want to talk about who deserves what, if we want to fill that 12 to 2 slot on ESPN locally, Trey Toon Show deserves to be in that 12 to 2 slot. That's just my opinion. And that ain't me gassing Trey up. That's just the truth. They would do the numbers they would do if they had Trey on from 12 to 2 and just basically being a show of, keeping the Twitch chat going and maybe reacting to some of the different, ESPN 1000 feuds going on and just breaking those down. I think that would be 10 times better. All respect to Mike Greenberg, who I loved with Mike and Mike growing up. But,
I love Mike and Mike growing up.
I think that
favorite show.
I think that would be home run. But
I might be a good producer. Like, what's great? Like, if I probably already know how to produce and know how to use the software. I just haven't before, because I basically, when I do this show, I have to produce. Like when you do the sounds and all that stuff and transition and all that. Like I know I can do all of that. I DJ. A thing is like I just wish I actually think they are hard. I just know I don't have the proper education.
Right. That's the thing. You gotta have gone to school and all this stuff. But hey, if everything was about having to go to school, then there'd be no David Kaplan's and Mike Norths who made it a different way.
Right.
I know, Mike North was the first ever sports host to make $1 million. Highest paid sports host ever at one point. And David Kaplan was selling shirts out of his car outside of Wrigley Field.
Right. Do I have to go down to ESPN studio and then just properly run a show right outside Midwest Bank State Street studio right there? Just set up right there with a generator.
We'll do it. We should do that one day. We'll just go live right in front of their studio, right in front of the window. Yeah, I'm sure they'd love that. We already give them enough shit, but no, they're great people over there. I mean, ESPN 1000 has been so supportive in what I'm trying to do these last few years, and I know they've been very supportive to you, Trey, as they should be, because I think you've brought a lot to their table as far as the songs. The parent started with parody songs, and now you're do the crosstalk intro song, and you're just, I think, a great personality in general. So. And then there's of course this too, not to get off topic, but my mom is in the chat busting my balls, and she's asking if I wished my mother a happy birthday today, and I have not yet, Trey. Well, I didn't know she was tuning in. She's supposed to be working right now, so
on her birthday.
Well, I wished her a happy birthday yesterday. I mean, how many freaking times do I got to do it? I mean, geez, Louise, it's not even a big birthday. It's 71. It's not like it's 70 or 75. But yes, my mom is in the chat. There she is.
That's crazy. Our mom's birthday. Our mom was born 2 weeks apart.
There you go. 71. So happy birthday to Trey's mom and happy birthday to my mom. I was going to do the whole sappy Facebook, Instagram post. God, I've been doing a show here for 3.5 hours breaking down the Bears. What do you want from me, Barb?
Happy birthday.
I love my mom. We were at the Purdue game yesterday when Purdue hit a game-winning shot at the buzzer just before the Bengals and the Chiefs kicked off, and we were inside Mackey and enjoying that, stressing out because Purdue blew a 20-point lead, but had a lot of fun with her. Taco Grease says happy birthday to Mama Braggs. Angelo, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Barb.
Yeah, and Beck and John says that he's with me, Mom. He's saying, if I wished you a happy birthday yesterday, I've fulfilled my commitment. Thank you. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, what more do you want from me? I'm not,
I mean, she only gave you life. I mean, that's
that was probably the easiest part. Raising me was 10 times harder, especially through them high school years. But I love you, Mom, and definitely happy birthday to you. She didn't even want to hang out with me. I said, let's go to dinner tonight, but she's going to dinner with her friends for her birthday. So,
that's her gift. Some time away from you, Brad.
Yeah, that's right. And my mom is working, and last year on her birthday she had COVID. And I was living with her. And so was Jenny and Addie. So I was none too pleased.
Like, what are you getting COVID for, Mom?
Most people when their mother gets COVID, like, oh my God, I'm so concerned. Are you okay? And I'm like, God damn it, Mom! What are you doing?
Social distancing.
This is the relationship. When people aren't used to, me and my mom's relationship, and they come around, they're like, what the hell? Like, how is he speaking to his mother like this? But, we have a unique relationship through all the years. There's Mom calling me out. I yell at everyone. I mean, what do you want from me? It's a lot. It's all within love. Jesus. I mean,
they're screaming, what do you want from me? How about respect, Brad? RESPSPT. Tell me what it means to me.
Yeah, yesterday I was giving her shit because I came up. We got home. I mean, we hung out from 8 a.m. till 2:30 in the afternoon. Then we get home, and Jenny has these cards on the table, and she's like, Greg, sign these real quick. As if she couldn't have already did that before I came in. So Mom starts coming up the stairs, and I'm signing it from your loving son, daughter, or daughter-in-law and granddaughter, Greg, Jenny, and Addie. And she's like watching me sign. I'm like, here you go, Mom. Like, thank you, Jenny. Why do I need, and she got her some presents or whatever. And, it's like, geez, Louise,
I admit, I've always been really, really bad with cards.
I'm terrible.
I really like getting them. It's like, oh, thanks. Because it does. I don't take them for granted because somebody have to go by them, stand in line, read to see which one was the right one. It takes some effort to buy a card sometimes, so it's like, all right, when you get them, I hate that I wish I could throw them away, but I don't. I have like a plastic bin just filled with cards.
I'm good with the cards and like writing a nice thoughtful message if I have the time. Jenny's just like throwing a card in my face as Mom's coming up the stairs, so I didn't really have like time to write something nice and sappy to make Mom cry, which is very easy to do because she's an emotional person like I am. But I'm terrible with presents. We don't do presents here. Like, we get presents for Addie for Christmas and her birthday, so we can see that light in her eyes, and she gets so excited. But the adults don't get presents. I don't get presents for my birthday. Jenny don't get presents for her birthday. On Christmas, Jenny and I do not exchange gifts on Christmas. We just put all our energy towards getting Addie gifts. And like my mom growing up was like the present queen. She would get 1 million presents for everybody, and like adults or kids. And like when we'd have Christmas, there'd be 1 million presents. We'd do like 4 different Christmases at all these different places, and she'd always have like 900 gifts for everybody. And she hates it now that I've like turned this tradition into no presents for anybody. She hates it. She literally just despises me for this, but I just can't get up for it. So she's mad at me about this stuff, but I always make it up because like they say, Sean Connery says in Finding Forrester. I know, yes, I'm quoting Finding Forrester, but he had a great message in that movie. He told, the student mentor of the movie, unexpected gift at an unexpected time. And that's what I like to do. I like to do things, more sporadic, spur of the moment when you're not expecting it, because I feel like that means more. So stay tuned, Mom. I'll do that for you. How's that sound?
Just because gift sometime in July for no reason at
Exactly
all.
right. That's what I do. So, no, Jenny and I aren't gift givers. That's not what we do. I give her the gift of putting up with my shit every day. But, so it is what it is. This is what it is. But that little story time, Mom's waiting for her gift. Yeah. Well, you know what? Keep on waiting. Don't hold your breath. I'll take you to a Purdue game. How's that sound next week? So hey, it is what it is. But definitely shout out to my mother. Happy birthday. I love you very much. We hang out more than anybody I hang out with. So, that's the gift you get.
Did I tell you what we got my mom for Christmas? And she
No.
all right. So we get my mom. My mom has been like every time she's seen a commercial over the past years, they always show these commercials for these chocolate diamonds. Like, so she like, oh, those are so nice. Don't give me a chocolate diamond one day. Years and years pass. We finally buy it for this thing is like $800, right? Which I know this isn't like the most expensive, but it is to me. It's right. So we me and my sister split it up, and I'm looking at it, things like this small. This looks really nice, but I'm like, she's not gonna know what this is. I said, my mom is like we had a Mercedes LS 550 pick her up for her birthday one year, and she was like, oh yeah, that black car was nice. I'm like, really? So we could have just sent a Toyota Camry Uber to pick you up, and you would have been just as easily as impressed. So anyway, everybody, my other two sisters are like, no, she's gonna love it. She always talking about it. I said, trust me, she's gonna look at it and be like, oh, that's cute, and not be like, you're not gonna get the reaction you're gonna think you're getting, and that's exactly what she did. She opened it. She was like, oh, I can wear this with my sweater to church tomorrow, and we're like. And they looking at me like, you were right. And I'm like, I told you. I was like, she wore a brown sweater, like a shirt she had lined up. She's like, oh, I can wear this with my brown. We were like, really, $800 gift for that reaction. And we could have got her some crystals.
Well, that's the hard part with kids. I get Addie this $100 Paw Patrol thing, and then she's playing in the box that it came in. Yesterday, she's like freaking out about it. She's got to the point now where she can see the toys on the commercials, and she's like, I want that. And I'm like, Addie, when I get you a present, you don't play with it. She's like, but I want it. I'm like, no, we're not doing this. Like, my God. But she normally can convince me, because she'll give me them sweet eyes, and puff her lips up a little bit, and that's pretty much all it takes. Now, Mom, she's gonna have to pull some teeth to get me to buy her.
It was so funny. Like with my son growing up, it's like, because I don't want to say I was cheap or anything, but it's like I used to be like, okay, we're not gonna just spend money on everything. I always told him, I said, before we go in the store, you don't be asking for everything. And like one time, all right. So long story short, we're at a Walmart toy aisle, and I'm like, oh God. And he sees he's like, oh man, that looks so cool. And he's only like 3 or 4 at the time. He said, can I get that? And I'm like, he doesn't ask for much. And I'm looking at it, and it's small, and I'm like, damn, this thing costs $30. I said, so, and he's like, well, how many bucks do you have? And I'm like, man, I said, so I get him, because he doesn't ask for a lot, Like even now, it's like, I'm so glad he's like, oh, I want the new Jordans. And it's like,
yeah, I hear they get more. The presents get more expensive as they get older.
Yeah, especially with you with a girl. You better hope she just doesn't care about fashion at all.
Well, I got her at the point now where she does this thing that we think is real funny where I'm like, give mommy some bad breath. And she goes in mom's face. She goes, and she thinks it's so funny. She'll like chase me or mom or even my mom, as we call her, Grammy.
Yeah.
She goes around going, so I'm trying to like really institute this as a staple for Addie. And then maybe she'll do this to the boys when she goes to school. And then it gets to a point where, you know, these guys are like, nope, I don't like push Addie to the side because I am making her quite the weird daughter. So, and I'm proud of that.
What do you think of? When you think of boys are normal, they're gonna probably fit in right with it. Like, oh, Eddie blew her breath on it. Let's do it back to her. They're gonna be standing in each other's face with their mouths open.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's not the best thing in this day and age in society with the COVID scares and everything, and Addie's going around going. But she does. She thinks it's so funny. So, you know, but we always knew that I was going to be a terrible influence on our daughter. It's just hopefully Jenny can bring the balance and teach her how to be a good person and a good student, because I'm neither of those. So
I can just picture you now, just like Addie's when she's a teenager and stuff. You're gonna be say the same thing. Like, what do you want from me? Like,
oh man, I hope she's still doing this. Like the other day, she was eating barbecued baked Lays. She like almost ate the whole bag, and she's like, like right in my face. I'm like, get the out of here! Like, what are you doing? She just thinks that shit is so funny. Yeah, so I hope she keeps doing that. That I might get lucky then. Like I said, she's gonna devote her life to science. She's gonna learn how to cure cancer, and she's not gonna have time for dating and things like that. And it'll ultimately be her choice, and I will support her in that. So yeah, that's where my headspace is at, because I you know, I'm dreading those homecoming and prom days and the dating days, but I'm sure I'll get used to it eventually. We'll see. It's just hard to imagine when you have this cute little 4-year-old daughter and you're like, you will always be a baby in my eyes.
See, I think I know I don't have a daughter, but I always imagined if I did. I was like, I think the best thing you can do as far as date, like, you know, is treat them so good that they know how to be treated. That they know how to be treated by a man. So yeah, that's probably the best thing you can do. Like, don't fall for the okey doke.
So treat her better than I treat my mom is what you're saying. No, I treat my mom nice in my own particular way.
Right.
But that is good advice. So maybe I need to start, thinking about how I'm treating all the ladies of my life. So Addie has a good example of what a good man is. Hey, Trey's giving sound advice here, Mom. I don't be mad. I'm not perfect, but maybe I'll work on some things for the betterment of our beautiful, loving daughter that you see in that profile.
Look
picture.
at Ghost has sound advice too, right here.
Well, yeah, always be cleaning the guns. Jenny has a 22. I don't even really know how to fire a gun because I'm not a big gun guy. But Jenny has a 22. So, like, we always joke if the robber breaks in, if we got somebody breaking into our house, I'm like, Jenny, get the gun.
That's so funny. Jenny, go get the gun.
What would you do to her? That's a great question, Mom, that we're all asking ourselves. What would we do without Trey? Well, we certainly wouldn't be having as much fun. That's for damn sure. So, I think that about wraps things up. We hit the 3.5 hour mark.
Oh yeah, I do have to go pick up my son from school.
He gotta go pick up his son from school. I gotta go eat some carbs, and get my carb intake for the day. So eat some lunch, enjoy the day. But thanks again to everybody for tuning in. Appreciate everyone hanging out and following along with the introduction press conferences of Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles. George McCaskey had some words. Justin Fields had some words. I want to shout out Jordan Silvera. Once again, just did a fantastic job bringing his analysis, in depth, look into what's going on with the Bears right now. He does a fantastic job. So make sure you again follow him at Jordan T Silvera. He does a lot of stuff. Taco Grease saying I ate during the show and now I'm gonna eat again. You know what? I had a small little Cheez-Its bag. That doesn't count. I need some protein. I need like a real lunch. All right. I'm always snacking on something though. Damn. The everything they see
bears.
all on this show,
Right,
I guess
during the press conference, you were like,
well, I mean, fuck, they went on for like an hour and a half. I'm gonna eat some Cheez-Its, like Jesus Christ. But thank you again to everybody tuning in. Thank you to Jordan T. Silvera. And once again, Trey, thank you as always for being my partner in crime here and having some fun with everything. And we'll do another show here coming down the pike, maybe one day for one of your afternoon specials where we just have a little more fun and just bullshit about nothing as opposed to the locking into the inner workings of the Bears. But hard not to be, encouraged from what you saw today. It's easy to win a press conference, but it's the first step in the new direction of the Chicago Bears, and that's ultimately what we all wanted was to get the old regiment out of here and get a fresh start and a clean slate for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. So we'll have to wait and see. We got the Super Bowl coming up in a couple weeks. I'm sure I'll be doing a show with Johnny B, licking his wounds after that Kansas City Chiefs loss.
Run the ball.
Maybe we'll bring on a big Bengals fan that we had on earlier this year, Lucas. I know very excited and he wants to come on to give his I told you so we might give him the stage to do that. But Trey, any final thoughts you have for the day? You want to, or any shout outs or, you got anything for us here for the loyal Twitch listeners?
Right. Yeah. I know ESPN's on right now. So shout out to all the people that are, doubling up or just over here. I do appreciate y'all sticking around. I mean, it means a lot, like for y'all to tune in and give your input and, laugh with us. So I appreciate y'all watching. Shout out to Braggs. Who, I didn't get that much sleep last night. And he's like, no, we're doing a show and you're going to be there. And, well, because who I can't even remember who called me. Like, so Big Dollar Dave and DBUCO calling me 2:00 in the morning. Shout out to y'all.
There's their two-fingered salute shout out.
Right, yeah. And I'm gonna start trying to do more shows where we can have good times and laugh and all that good stuff. Maybe we'll get Lil Kev and Will on the show.
Oh boy, that would be fireworks.
Oh yeah,
I'd love it.
It'd have to be pay-per-view right there. Right. Like so yeah, and I mean it's just I could go on and on. Ghost one of the biggest supporters and stuff. Beck and John, with the alcohol they got for us, the gifts and all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully the Bears got it right. I mean, and I guess I could just close out on that and like I said, we'll see you again soon and
bear down.
Bear down. Yeah. You gotta come up with a good closing and stuff.
Yeah. And that's the end of that chapter.
Right.
No, yeah, again, thank you to Beck and John. Trey told me you guys had some gifts for us. Really appreciate you guys and all the support and your friendship. Most importantly, you guys are good people. Shout out to everybody there. So, hey, that wraps things up for a long edition of the Trey Tunes Show / Braggs in the Stands crossover here. As always, make sure you tune into the Trey Tunes Show, which is, weekdays, 12 to 2 p.m. playing sports and I don't know how that. Did you pull that up, Trey?
Yeah, I did.
The Trey. I was like, what the hell? The Trey Tunes Show, talking sports and playing hits, weekdays 12 to 2, live only on Twitch. www.twitchtv.tv/Trey Tunes. Does a great job. Having some afternoon specials. So make sure you tune in when he has those shows. They're great. A lot of fun. We get fired up. Not as serious as today's show with the Bears talk and everything. But again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. I think that wraps things up for today. Brags in the Stands, the Trey Tunes Show. We're signing out. We'll see you next time. Always bear down, and that is the end of that chapter.
Detroit, the Bears.